or not, here I come. Oh yes we can. Oh yes we can. Oh yes we can. Oh yes we can. Ready or not, here I come. Oh yes we can. Oh yes we can. Oh yes we can. Oh yes we can.
Good evening and welcome everybody as we are here for the Overwatch Collegiate Homecoming 2023. It has been a long time since we've seen you. I am Rich Rat here alongside Kenobi, and my friend, the time is now, and let these games begin.
I'm just so ready to be back here with you, Rich, casting Collegiate. I mean, it's something that I look forward to every time, twice a year. You know, we get Christmas, it feels like twice a year when we get to see these Collegiate games between these two, starting it off the Collegiate year with Collegiate Homecoming. And we're in a nitty-gritty part of the bracket. The Swiss is already over, and now we've got a lot of key matchups going forward to decide who gets that top 8 double elimination bracket.
So many teams to work their way through this double elimination bracket, and we have got a lot of names that we are excited to see here as they continue to do so every semester, but also some names that we also, see a little bit more of recently in the way that they've been able to develop and play, the ever-changing, accommodations to what we call meta is going to be, which we have no idea what we're going to see, and that's a thrill for us because Collegiate's always been like that, where we just can see these really tight-knit, select kind of one-trick methodologies behind some, or looking to go to a very structured foundation.
Yeah, I mean, I really love the aspect of Collegiate where you kind of have these moments where you have teams earlier on in the bracket, right, that are playing a little bit more to their own style before trying to get to that top 8 bracket. But we can see, looking at the schedule, about where we're going to be going to in, a couple of times when we get there. It's going to be a very interesting start because we have this round of 32, then round of 16. Both of them are going to be single elim, so a lot of high stakes, Rich, in both of these matchups that we're going to have today before we get into Saturday, where we see that double elimination start to creep in. But we're starting things off with Ball State University versus Grandview University, and then we have another matchup after that, which will be in the round of 16. But always the crazy thing about this to me, Rich, when we start off, usually these first games in Collegiate, it's always teams that are a little bit more unknown, and that's really where the fandom comes in, especially when you get those votes in the chat, right? A lot of these hardcore fans coming in, players that we might not have too much of an idea of what they're going to do, but once we get into the game and get into that nitty-gritty, it's awesome seeing how those dynamics really work with each other.
And the unique flavors that they want to bring to the forefront here for us to have going into this first match, which again, it is going to be Ball State versus Grandview University. And we'll be able to take a look first at Ball State University. You and I have actually had a number of occasions previously in other tournaments as well to commentate this team, their university as a whole in the Eastern region, to see what they've been able to bring to the table. A lot of aggression, a lot of variety in their compositions historically from them, and curious to see if they're going to do the same thing leading into this homecoming.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really interesting look at this Ball State University team. Obviously a team that, maybe we aren't as familiar with in terms of going forward and seeing them previously. We have casted a lot of Ball State. They usually perform pretty well, but this other team that we can talk about in Grandview University, it's a team that you and I are very, very familiar with just in the esports scene in general, right? I think Grandview University has a great esports program across many different esports titles. It's a team that I'm very familiar with in terms of those other titles. Now coming into Overwatch, into that top 32, how are they going to perform? What's the meta that they're going to be running here? Because I think that's also something we have to keep an eye on, right? Especially with that patch that we just saw recently come out, where Sombra has been completely changed. Is that something teams are going to be opting in for? Do people really not like Sombra and want a little bit more time to adjust? That's going to be something very interesting to see because we are on that live patch. So a lot of those changes that are coming through are going to be new for not only us, but for the players themselves.
Yeah, I mean, with these individuals going through their education to get their degrees, to get their, status moving on in their life, we get to be the educated ones today and see what they're going to bring to the forefront and able to allow us to understand what is best practiced, and also potentially those that are watching are going to be able to take some of these and apply them to their own competitive games, or if you're like me, a lot of quick play, because I don't do a lot of competitive because I always am never good enough to do that. But
I think your Arissa could probably get into gold or something like that.
I dabble. Thanks for the gold count. But we're gonna be looking at our first map, which is going to be Antarctic Peninsula, and again, a wide variety of options I think we can bring to the table here, and that is going to be most important to see which submap we get first and recognize how they want to dive into this. And having a chance to be able to talk to Woods, Grandview University's coach specifically going into this, they acknowledge that they've had an opportunity to scrim Ball State before. Again, patch notes have changed and adjusted as we've mentioned and talked about, and for those specifically with the Sombra and other minor tweaks, but Grandview feels really confident going into this, that they have this understanding of Ball State, and like I mentioned at the top when we specifically talked about their roster, they have this type of forward momentum, this press W mentality, and we'll see if Grandview is going to be able to react to that and see if that's still going to be something that they have at the forefront of the way that they play.
Yeah, and while the metas might be a little bit different, I think one of the big things that we can glean from these teams, no matter what meta it is kind of that tempo you're talking about, right? If there is going to be that team that's very aggressive, holding W like you mentioned, that's something that we're probably going to see a pattern consist of throughout the time that we see them playing, and it's about the other team, how are they going to react to that? Are they going to try and match that tempo, play their own tempo? That's really where we're going to see a lot of variety. I think in Antarctic Peninsula, it's a map where we see a lot of that rush style of composition. Great for if you're pressing W, right? You put a Reinhardt on the field, can get a lot of value that way. We've had some changes in terms of the tanks, but Reinhardt always feels like a good pick on this map in particular. So Antarctic Peninsula will give us a nice litmus test to see kind of where these teams are going to be operating, not necessarily in the comps, because I think this is a map where comps really are centered on the specific submaps, but that tempo that you were talking about is going to be something we can glean.
And we can make sure before this match begins, the start of Control, we want to get your predictions. You said it at the start of the broadcast. The universities we don't get to see too much, we really get the fandom. So who do you think's going to take it? Ball State University, or it's going to be Grandview University? As we enter in onto this first map of Control, you have a matter of seconds to get those votes in, as I'm waiting to see what the conclusive decision is for the compositions out the gate.
And this is usually a map in this Icebreaker, I believe this is called. I think we've went through this before, me and you, about what this map type is. The big ship that's in the middle does offer, with the May on both these teams being hovered, it does offer a little bit of value in terms of putting those walls up, moving the geometry of the map a little bit to be in your favor. The big difference, though, that I see between these two comps at the start is that Bastion, right? Yeah. You can't go Ghost is going to be on that. Sojourn offers a little bit more of that one-shot potential, but not necessarily the same amount of pressure that a Bastion does when they go into Wheels mode.
And we'll see when what activates this tank configuration to get the maximum amount of value, swinging from a flanking angle. Ball State attempts to counteract the movement that Grandview had up towards that back position near the engine room. What gets rid of that immortality field so it opens up a chance for a follow-up on the grenade, waiting for that ice to melt and waste away for some decent follow-up. Zoe continuing to harass and pressure this May to force them up the stairway. A second rotation now coming out from this big burst of damage, a boot by Canary, and we can continue to see that even though this is percentage game by Ball State, Grandview is really working their way around this to take it and isolate it back as they get a blizzard to secure this opportunity of turning it back.
That's a nice wall, though, to block off some of the damage from that Ant Matrix, but Ball State University have come back into this, and throughout all this, Rich, they still have the point in their favor, so this was a great rotation to start things off by Ball State, who were able to weather the storm of that Bastion. Incredible from them, actually. Losing Monway that early and still winning the fight is incredibly good for them in terms of being able to tick up that percentage, so it's basically one fight win for about 50%. You take that every day of the week if you're Ball State University, and you've got some key ultimates here to be able to continue to accrue that lead, right? That May Blizzard in these enclosed areas is going to do a huge amount of damage, and also zoning. It's really going to be on Canary here on this Lucia to be able to get that sound barrier to negate some of that damage coming through.
And we'll see if there's going to be that usage of the amplification matrix early, potentially onto Monway across that bridge to see if they can get an instant pick out the gate. If anybody looks to press up into it, but still playing very cautiously. Activation now from what to guarantee that they can force them back. Big pickup, though, instantly onto the Baptiste, completely shutting down the Sigma play as well. Grandview at this point has to abandon ship and look for the regroup, but there's only 25% left to go.
That's really great coordination from Ball State University. You saw the very aggressive Gravitic Flux coming out from Monway, but what it did was it put the Baptiste up in the air so you can't ghost. A very easy shot with that rail shot, one shot potential, takes down the Baptiste, and once the Baptiste is gone, there's no way back into that for Grandview University, who now have to really step up the pace to try and get back on.
Managing to touch to keep it into the overtime. The accretion comes out for the stun and a huge follow-up. 4 in coordination to eliminate Monway, who has been that shining light that is needed on the front line for Ball State to stand strong. But now Ball State can look for a regroup. It has 2 ultimates, soon to be 3, to favor them in this next fight.
Grandview, though, have to play the rest of this, I think, absolutely perfectly for themselves, especially facing up against that 99%. And you look at what Ball State has, to work with, a great combination of ultimates for them. Mainly, you're going to be looking at the Lucio Soundbird and the Ant Matrix, 2 support ultimates that are so good at just beating down the enemy team.
Look at the rush and the dive. Is able to give the sound barrier as well for Ball State to try and weather that, but unfortunately, it comes out just seconds too late, and they no longer have that fluid healing that comes from Spencer to just boost them through this. They're attempting to continue to survive, but it's just coming up short.
I mean, it's so scrappy right here. This Lucio is not going to be long for this world, and Grandview University somehow flipped that point back for themselves in what felt like Ball State University with an advantage, but the sound barrier just a little bit too late. A great dive from Zoe in particular to make sure that Baptiste got eliminated before the sound barrier shielding could take him out, and now that ultimate economy that Ball State had to potentially just win outright, get that 1%, is not looking as great, and with what getting a pick onto Spencer, that's the second time Spencer has died first in these fights, and that's just getting Grandview University back into these fights. This Ant Matrix has not been able to be used in a good position yet.
Yeah, because what's playing that off angle so well, nobody able to punish it. They're going to regroup back as there's just this 30% remaining. There's more than enough time for a final engagement, but what does it again on the outside?
For a pick. Oh, and you can't go. Ghost gets picked this time. Their Ball State just is not able to get back into these fights with the members they want. Grandview is doing such a good job of getting these picks, and now that lead has been completely evaporated in Grandview University. They look like they're in the driver's seat now to take this last fight.
In the hand over the overclock from what? Waiting to unleash this. But Ball State's gonna come in! The disruptor shot chips away at the last remaining health of Spencer, so they don't get the amplification matrix. It's all onto Monway with the flux to disorient the team, but that overclock absolutely dissolves every ounce of hope that Ball State has in this initial round, and it does go in favor of Grandview.
And that was really great adaptations from Grandview University, right? They start off on the Bastion, doesn't really work in their favor, and they're like, okay, we're going to start matching with the Sojourn. And I think actually the Genji pick really influenced that map in particular, specifically because of the fact that you can set up those crossfires very effectively and potentially let what get those picks on the side, right? The flanking potential from that Sojourn and from what was just so incredibly impactful. Spencer dying those first two fights, and then also it felt like Ball State in those last three fights that they had never really had a full 5 members going into a fight, and that's never where you want to be, especially on a control map like that.
And Grandview said that before going into this game today. Very adaptable, feel comfortable going in with the composition they feel strong with, but then if they need to make those adjustments in quick decision making, they are able to do it, and that is a perfect example of it with the Genji as they rush out here going May for May.
Yeah, I think starting out on May for May is good. If you really see that there's a problem with that matchup in the mirror, you can go back to the Genji, still very good on a map like this, but my eyes are going to be on who has been the key factor right now as a wall comes up and Monway already getting taken down low. Immortality Field has to be used.
So much expended in that initially to try and survive, as you do have some retaliation though. Grandview getting low, the Immortality Field active, but Monway again, this brute force and blunt trauma out the gate on these initial engagements has consistently favored Ball State.
Yeah, if they can keep Monway alive through these engagements, that's really where I think Ball State University has a hand up in some of these fights. Monway, in those previous couple of fights that we saw on the last submap, was dying very early or getting pressured out very early, and now you can see Grandview going back to the Genji to try and offer a little bit more of that assassination potential, right? If Monway is very low, they can use that Genji, get into that backline, slice and dice, and potentially take out that stalwart Bastion like you were mentioning.
Value decision before in the previous round. Will it happen a second time? Or is there a great reaction onto this front line? Again, consistently getting that knockdown and the stun from the accretion. A counterplay. Zoe in the back, diving forward, able to eviscerate Raven Strider in the back. The trades continue, but Grandview still not out of this yet, playing in that clustered area, swapping it back over down below, deviating away from it as the engagement's still not yet fully completed.
Yeah, Ball State's kind of stuck right here. I mean, they have some ultimates to try and brute force their way out of this, but look at what on the flank. Doesn't hit the rail shot.
Disruptor gonna slow him for the moment, attempting to jump out. Spencer running for their lives, but unfortunately can't escape the grasp of the Sigma play, and that is going to be consistent percentage gain here for Grandview.
I think the other thing that I like about what Grandview does when they switch over to this Genji, they're just like, yeah, we're not going to fight front to back. Zoe, just go into the backline and just assassinate someone, right? If they can continuously do that and not have this front to back kind of fight that they seem to be struggling on a little bit more so than how they operate on this comp, they seem to have a much better time operating and maneuvering these fights, but a lot of ultimates coming in here for Ball State.
And Ant Matrix is the way to lead, followed immediately by that sound barrier to give so much fortification to Ball State, but unfortunately a rail shot still comes in, clocking and getting a second here with both supports down. What is having a field day right now, and that's 50+%.
Yeah, what? I mean, she's kind of popping off right now with how well she's been doing on this Sojourn. I mean, just in look at the stats, almost getting towards a deadlift at the current moment. I said the word, so it's obviously cursed right now. But
yeah.
Grandview University in a great position now. Did, have to commit a couple of ultimates, but the big thing is they were able to force out that sound barrier from Yakester. Now Canary has one of their own to deal with this gravitic flux coming in from Monway, so a lot of shielding available to negate that ultimate.
these disruptor shots have been great, really from both sides, causing so much hesitation and moving into the chip damage. The blade in the back, though, by Zoe, sweeping forward, gets rid of the immortality field, but caught out by Spencer, backpedaling into the narrow room just outside of the swiping strike. With down below, another overclock available, goes for it. Yakester gets the follow through, gives the assistance necessary to turn this back over as there's 90% and climbing, reaching this overtime. Grandview just holding on for dear life to get as close to that 99 as possible, with Ball State fighting their way back into this and having 2 ults to boot.
Yeah, they're just trying to get to that 99 percentile here. No way that a Genji, especially without Blade, is going to be able to come back from that one. So Ball State University able to come back into this. We did see a reverse sweep kind of in percentage in the last round, so this is very comebackable for Ball State University here, especially with the fact that Grandview University committed a lot to that fight, didn't end up really winning out on that one. And you look at Ball State University, 2 very key ultimates in terms of being able to stall time, right? The Blizzard and that overclock. You have to respect the overclock, and you also have to respect that Blizzard, and that's just time you're getting for yourself to get back into this game.
Contention down below, drawing. Oh, they're so far away, they need to move back onto this. It's a free swap back over, but they get an instant pick onto the tank, and they touch it. The boom! Oh my! It was a swift, clean idea at the start, but unfortunately, the timing that it took to execute the action was just too delayed, and a beautiful boop that comes out by Canary to seal their fate.
I mean, if it was at any percentage besides the 99%, I think that works for them, but unfortunately, great presence of mind. I mean, really there from Grandview University to be able to get back onto that one. I think that is something that we really saw a lot of between a lot of their rotations. They have a really good understanding of the game here when they start out. Maybe it doesn't work too well for them, then they make those adaptations. I think this was really well played from Grandview University, and Ball State University had some really good moments, but didn't take us long to get to that C9 counter, did it, Rich? I mean, it's already map 1. We got our already 1.
Map 1, round 2, Kenobi. This is just like riding a bike, isn't it?
I mean, this is just how it is. With us specifically. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if this goes to map 5 now.
Yeah, it'll go to map 5, map 3, and then we'll have another C9 on that. No, we can't do that. We can't try and write the script. Our script writers somewhere else are having more of an enjoyable time with it. But realistically, as we're entering into this now, you can see a very good understanding of, again, Ball State wanting to take risks. It was a very great idea, but I agree with you 100% that if there was just a few more percentages on that, absolutely worked. It gives them that extra percentage necessary to enter into Final Fight and still hold on to some key ultimate components that will allow them to secure this and bring them to another round.
I mean, that was an ultimate deficit as well. Like, right, Ball State University here, look at them. They have 3 ultimates in their bank. They kill Eye Finger Paint, yeah, but beyond that, like, it might have been just a little bit too far. I think if I'm being, like, super nitpicky about it, it's like, as soon as you force them out, probably just go back and then decide you need to really give up on it. But in that moment where it's like, we've committed so much to kill the Sigma already, we just have to do it, and then it's just that little, like, millisecond of time that really, unfortunately, doesn't end up working out for side of Ball State University. But I'd say relatively close first map from what we've seen there between these two teams. Are going to be going to our second map here, which I believe is going to be Escort, or Hybrid, rather.
Hybrid.
I'm always screwed up. Now that we have Flashpoint, right? That's going to be
I know, right?
Have
to get used to that.
We get to do the first Flashpoint. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be fun,
haven't cast a Flashpoint yet. Going to be so fun for it, but we do have our second map. It is going to be Ichenwalde to start things off here. And I wonder, like, how we're going to be seeing these teams operate, because Ichenwalde definitely works on a map like this. Genji as well, but this doesn't scream to me like Sigma versus Sigma mirror, right? Especially second, where you need to have a little bit more of that high ground control, I think. But to be fair, it's also possible that they just kind of handshake and be like, yeah, we're just going to play a little bit more pokey style between the two of us, and the winner ends up winning on that one. So I think this will be a great kind of understanding as well to see if on the side of Ball State University, do they have something up their sleeve for a map specifically like Ichenwalde that's maybe not as conventional.
And again, even though this was a 2-0 in comparison for that control map, this was still realistically, I think, a very close matchup between the two. And that, I think, also really ties back to the predictions that we had. Only a 2% differentiate, well, technically 4, because 52 to 48, whatever, do math. But yes,
never do math on cast. Right? It's so
I know. Well, I mean, technically, I wasn't wrong, because it's a 2% differentiator, because that 2% goes to the other side, which then makes it a maximum of 4 between the two. So we're going to do this
I'll take your word for it. I'm not doing the math. I'm not doing the math. I'll take your word for it.
Rapid math for for those out there. But yes, and I think it's going to really be that way, and this would be a map or a series that can go to that map 5, even though we were joking about a script related, that they have such fire within them in this 32 that want to continue to work through this bracket and make a name for them, because Grandview, even in chit-chatting with them, they felt like they're, you know, touted as the underdog, like they're kind of kicked to the side a little bit, and they want to come out saying, you know what, we may be what others don't expect, but we could still come in and really leave a mark on our opponent if they are not ready for it.
And I think this is, I mean, just based on like the kind of the standings from the Swiss stage, I mean, we see that it was Ball State 15th, Grandview 18th. Like, that's a very slim margin in terms of how they were getting. I believe they both had the same record as well, 8-2 going into this. So these are two teams that are insanely close. Yes, that was a 2-0, but, you know, as kind of the meme goes, I think it was much closer than the 2-0 would indicate. You know, casters love saying that, but I think that was genuinely what I saw off of that first map of Antarctic Peninsula. And now when we have a team going to Ichenwalde, it is going to be a map that does offer a little bit more variety than Antarctic Peninsula. Do they have something in their back pocket to really take this to an even score?
As we pan over the beautiful landscape, I'm actually going to Scotland next year and looking at castles, so when I see this, it just makes me think of all of those adventures that I'm gonna have.
I was like, why did he say Scotland?
I know, right? No, you gotta let me finish. It's like there's a thought process to this. You gotta let me get there. My old brain sometimes takes a little bit. I get that, but
the wheels gotta turn a little bit, you know.
Hey, I thought my wheels turned pretty good on that math little description there. So every now and again they can function.
I'll take your word for it because I
force.
didn't do it. I didn't do the math.
It's like a steam engine, because we take a look at the
Math was
defensive
my
side,
worst
though.
subject. 100%.
Was it really? Well, because
you
you liked English, didn't you? Like, you preferred English?
History was my favorite subject.
Okay. So if I ever have any factual historical questions, I'm just going to start DMing you now. But we're going to take a look at the defensive side here and look at the composition. And once again, they're going to bring out the Genji in this.
Not seeing too much difference in terms of the meta. I mean, this is first point, so second point was really where we could potentially see some things change, because you have that verticality here. It is a little bit more, you know, just on the ground, not really using any type of high ground necessarily. The difference is, though, that Grandview still bring in that Genji, and it was something Ball State had a hard time dealing with, and UK Ghost takes out what? That's a great pick to start things off.
Yeah, Ball State was getting blasted on the entryway, but then finally when that shot comes in with the railgun and guarantees a follow-up by Monway, it is Grandview just crumbling under the pressure.
And I think that's one of the things that if you could see Ball State really, the Mei is great at like these kind of mid-long ranges, a little bit more so than Genji, because of the fact that if you just hit one icicle, it's great follow-up for the Sojourn, right? Just one headshot, even if you're not fully high charge, is still going to get the job done, as this is a very aggressive push from Ball State University. And actually, UK Ghost goes down. I think this is a little bit too much for them. They're not going to lose too much in terms of positioning, but what this does is it lets Grandview back into it, which is potentially the scarier option.
100%, because you could see that Grandview was in so many different positions. They were attacking from multiple angles to guarantee that they catch Ball State off guard and just completely force them back. And they have a solid defensive position here now. Holding at the front line, though, Finger Paint has to retreat. The Amplification Matrix out, great accretion, but Canary is down. Once again, Grandview has faltered under the weight, and Zoe with the blade can't gain anything. Grandview is just going to abandon this and have to fall back defensively.
And this is really great aggression from Ball State University. Yes, there's that other side of the coin where they get a little bit too over-aggressive after that first fight win, but that fight was just perfect. They know they have an advantage with that Ant Matrix. Just throw the Sigma in front of it. There's not really anything the enemy team can do. And again, Ravenstrider, I think, has been having such a better time right now as the blade comes in right now.
Hacking and slashing, gets rid of the immortality field. What a boot to knock them back, though, denying the close proximity for the slashes as this fall down from the high ground. Monway regroups with the rest of the team down below. 4.5 minutes to work with. They have plenty of time as they're slow moving into this building, but Finger Paint comes in from the backside and is able to completely paint them in red.
I mean, this is going to be a little bit of a tricky situation for Ball State University, especially because this is like one of the worst positions to be held with where the card is, because all the high ground now is in favor of Grandview University. They're gonna love just being able to put Zoe and What here on this high ground, continuously spam down through this chokehold, and Ball State University are gonna have to really work in terms of time to get back to this cart and potentially rotate slowly around. Nice wall, though, to get this rotation going, but look at the encircling from Grandview University here, always making sure Ball State has to look behind them if they want to make this rotation.
Multi-prong attacks have so much value if they can get this pick in the backside, either if it comes from Zoe or from What. But with this extremely coordinated snowball that Ball State is having, they're really making it work. They've divided them. The wall is active. They fall back now, gets an icicle to the dome onto what? And they can get this payload moving to the bridgeway to isolate those last few meters.
And the counter rotation from Grandview is good, but just the rotation in general from Ball State was just perfect. And here comes an Ant Matrix actually. Grandview University want to get out of here.
Ant Matrix attempting to try and counteract that influx of damage. Also with the Blizzard, there's a two-piece coming out onto Finger Paint, as that is a lovely follow-through. There's a third, count it up. You can't see Ghosts, well, you can't see these shots coming through by Ghost.
I mean, this has been a kind of battle of two Sojourns. I think, though, Ravenstrider has really been the focal point, right? Just the lack of a May for Grandview University. Yes, it was working great on that other map of Antarctic Peninsula, where it's a little bit more enclosed and the dashes get a lot of value. But here, Ravenstrider, these walls have been absolutely immaculate, and they're hitting their shots as well with the icicles, putting that pressure down. So I think that Ball State University is really, really starting their stuff here.
Great flux to pull them together. The Immortality Field onto 4 keeps them stable, and Zoe goes down. Can't get out with the dash, as there's a huge follow-up, though, from what? Making space and gaining an opportunity to slow this momentum, but the corner is still held strong. Ball State, even though they're going to lose one support, they still have Spencer to fuel themselves to keep anchor on this position, forcing back Grandview again.
And with how much healing Spencer's going to be doing here, that's going to be Ant Matrix relatively soon. Are Grandview University going to go in? Finger Paint just goes in down instantly. Canary down too. And Rich, this is just going to be an absolute blitz from from Ball State University here.
Yep. 3 minutes and 30 seconds. They are in a great position to have a massive time bank to work with. They feel extremely confident, keeping them locked away into this spawn position. A nice angle over the top from Canary to guarantee the contention, along with Finger Paint up close. What comes in with the Widowmaker? Finds the shot on Dispenser. The hit scan is active, and it is live. Going for a second one. Can't quite find the execution onto Ravenstrider, who does accumulate the Blizzard. Tossing it onto the point, locking them down, clearing it out. The Blade comes in, but unfortunately it can't do much because Ravenstrider, as you mentioned, has been a significant factor for this team to get this completion.
Yeah, this is a completely different Ball State than we saw in Antarctic Peninsula. This is just quick, clean, decisive, even though there's like that one hiccup, you can argue, after that first point where they go into second a little bit too over-aggressive and lose some positioning. Beyond that, I don't think Ball State ever lost their footing with this composition, right? And it had to do a lot with the May. I mean, I'll talk about it again, just that one rotation where they put the wall up on that high ground, rotated directly into the castle, got onto high ground, knowing that if Grandview University wants to fight us, like in a brawl, we have a May, they don't, we win. Like, that's just great understanding about how this composition rotates around what Grandview University was playing. And Zoe, who was really great on Antarctic Peninsula, has not been able to really get the same amount of value because I think there's been that focus as well from Ball State to make sure the Genji is being pressured down.
And I did like to see that adjustment towards the tail end of it. What attempting this Widowmaker gets a very clean shot onto the support, but unfortunately just can't quite outmatch the viability and just the survivability that Ravenstrider brings to the table on the main with the crowd freeze, the wall, the slow, the damage, the icicles, everything accumulating to counteract it. As we now see the swap of sides where Ball State is going to keep this same composition and hopefully deny Grandview from reaching that completion.
I mean, even if they do hit the completion, though, for Grandview, it's still a tall mountain to climb. Like, 3-minute time bank on Ichenwalde is almost unheard of a lot of the time, and we can kind of see why this map has been picked for Ball State here. Down 0-1, now trying to take it to 1-1. What tries to get that shot that we all know and love is possible there, but doesn't manage to hit it. So Grandview University going to start poking and prodding through with this Genji still. We'll see if Ball State continue to have that focus down onto Zoe, making them really scared about trying to poke too much with those Genji shurikens.
And you can see the divide and conquer. Zoe playing more towards that left-hand side alongside Canary to regroup once they find an opportunity to move in. But you can see Ball State responding in kind. They've rotated to counteract it. They're seesawing between the two angles so that they can guarantee denial of a clean push through. Since the hits haven't come in, an execution shot still waiting and looming in the darkness until finally the Immortality Field has to be forced from both sides. So they no longer have that as a lifeline. What a beautiful dash out coming in from Ghost, but unfortunately, Canary's right on their tail, and that's Grandview aggressively able to now capitalize on this moment.
And this I like a lot more from Grandview University, right? This is a little bit more patient play, waiting for that perfect moment to kind of go aggressive. We saw from Canary there, especially taking down You Can't Ghost, making sure that they're put back into the team, can't get away from that incoming damage, and then once the Sojourn is out of that fight, a lot of the damage is lost in what can play a little bit more aggressively if they want, without threat of another Sojourn one-shotting them. So we'll see Grandview University take that first point, but Ball State University have control of the high ground now, and without the May, can Grandview University rotate as efficiently as Ball State did in that previous encounter? We'll see. It's going to be very difficult.
Zoe threading a needle right now on the back end, attempting to escape. Almost gets hit by the accretion on the way out. Does not quite land. 2 ultimates available for the support line as Grandview catches up themselves to have both Canary and the amplification matrix. Nice stun, denies the flux. Finger paint ain't making artwork today with that one as Ball State looks to clean up, but unfortunately Zoe comes in, the blade is active, and it denies another. We see one on one team and then a second on the other as it's equalizing in the middle. The dash resets are there. Another flux denied. Ultimates, nah, we don't want to see them. We just want good, clean, hard, general ability gameplay.
I mean, this fight is an absolute mess here. The only ultimate that actually went through was Zoe on that Dragon Blade, and it's a complete mess, but somehow, some way, Grandview University are able to win that fight and win the positioning battle, and now it's them moving through. Canary gets very aggressive there and goes down.
Yeah, great pickup. It's going to lose a lot of that mobility factor, dropping down below to give assistance. Zoe gets picked up because their health is so low. What with the overclock, won't be able to find any additional value, and Ball State is able to reset here, holding them back at the doorway and really once again taking this high ground.
Yeah, the high ground is going to be incredibly important for Ball State here on this defensive side. And now there's a blizzard as well in turn with the overclock. I mean, what used overclock there didn't really get a lot of value. I think it was more of a desperation thing after Canary died so early, trying to boop them off of that high ground. But great target focus from Grandview to take down that Lucio, and Zoe is down again. The focus has just been so good from this from this Ball State University team to make sure that Genji has been stifled. Not like it was on Antarctic Peninsula, and now Ball State University, that time continues to tick down for Grandview University, and this defense is looking great.
And being able to address that problem from previous encounters so quickly by Ball State is really a testament to their ability to understand what their opponent is bringing to the table. And because they can stifle Zoe, it makes it that much more challenging to work through this. The Blizzard now tossed into the mix. The sound barrier is there, but there's 3 still locked down. Finger paint is dwindling. Along with Canary, it is falling apart in this frigid wasteland, and it's going to now be Grandview again pushed back to spawn.
Sound barrier was also committed from Grandview there, so with where we're at, I mean, 2.5 minutes in terms of Grandview University's time left in the bank. They get one more ultimate rotation. They have an Ant Matrix to work with, but on the other side, Ball State University has one of their own, and it's going to be on high ground, so a much more deadlier Ant Matrix is going to be available for Ball State University here on this high ground, especially when you're comboing it with someone like You Can't See Ghost in that Sojourn. And I mean, that's disastrous, Rich. It's over. You can't aggress now if you're Grandview. You've lost your Baptiste.
And what's going to follow up? You back out. There's no way you stick into it. You go back to the drawing board. You have these 2 ultimates, and Zoe also going to have this blade is something extremely helpful. But these staggers can't continue like this because they're continuing to lose time.
I mean, if you're Grandview University, you have to get out of dodge. The time is the biggest thing, right? That's a minute taken off the clock already, right? We're at 1 minute and 30 seconds about when we get back into this fight. I feel like for Grandview University, what's going to have to happen for them is they're just going to have to commit all their ults to win this fight, but then you don't even get to the checkpoint.
Oh, Zoe down again. Grandview, unfortunately, is just being gridlocked here. They are unable to break this defensive hold that Ball State has. 1 minute and 20 seconds remain, and things are looking extremely dire.
Yeah, and I mean, it feels like something that we saw in Antarctic Peninsula where there's a team that's just starting these fights with a member down. It's always just these picks that are coming in at the start when these rotations are happening. And Grandview University, I talked about it a little bit earlier, they're just going to have to throw all their ultimates at this fight with 1 minute left and try and get to that second checkpoint.
We'll see how Ball State reacts. They draw back ever so slightly into the flux. The blade is up top, potentially to follow in. As they launch the accretion, the sound barrier is active. Ball State needs to counteract to hold on at this point with 45 seconds. You can't see Ghost, able to eliminate 1, but it comes back in tenfold by Grandview, committing the ultimates necessary from bold DPS to buy them some time and a new lease on life.
Yeah, and with where the card is, they're going to get one last shot across the bridge for this one. But look at Raven Strider with this May Blizzard in an enclosed area like this on the bridge. You cannot ask for a better ultimate to have, especially when this fight is most likely going to be happening in that overtime time, all Grandview have to work with is going to be that Ant Matrix. Canary needs to find a way to get this sound barrier in time.
4 posture up the high ground, while 1 keeps it contested, rotating in, amplification matrix, big stun, the immortality field is there, keeping Monway alive, topping them up, locking down finger paint, the blizzard, as you've mentioned, being the win condition, and it's going to be, you can't see Ghost with the overclock to follow up and guarantee that this will be a Ball State map win, and allow them a chance to making it even 1-for-1.
Yeah, Ball State, I mean, looked like a completely different team on the secondary map of Ichenwalde. It was really the May that really, I think, turned things around. If you look at the difference, you know, Raven Strider, 36 limbs, 16 final blows, only 4 deaths. This May was played so impeccably well that there really wasn't that focus down onto them, and the focus really came onto Zoe, who was performing exceptionally well on Antarctic Peninsula, but this time, 14 deaths, and that just shows how much focus was put into Ball State University taking down this Genji, and if Grandview weren't going to change anything, Ball State University's totally fine continuing to handshake this matchup.
And now with it being a 1-to-1, the ball is in the other's court to see what map we're going to venture onto, and it'll be exciting, as we mentioned, to get to see that new frame of mind on the Flashpoint, but again, this, I think, really can go the distance. I've said it once before, and I can say it again. It is just this constant adaptability, and I'm waiting to see now what the new formula is going to look like for Grandview University to counteract the way that Ball State has been playing. At this point, Raven Strider has been a monumental impact, and now Grandview's going to have to find a way to counteract, since it really seems like they're on fire. Like, they are just absolutely on a tear, playing impeccably, and it is showing specifically on this map, and I wouldn't doubt it continuing on.
Yeah, I mean, does Grandview continue to play the Genji? That's like a big question mark to me now. We are going to a map in Flashpoint that's probably going to be a little bit more Control-esque, you know? I think that's kind of what it's basically like 5 rounds of Control, if you want to kind of dumb it down a little bit. That's basically what it ends up being if you're on Flashpoint, but I think that's kind of the matchup for me. How are they going to deal with Raven Strider on the May? Are they going to try and mirror it? It didn't work that well in Antarctic Peninsula. They switched to the Genji and it worked. Is that, you know, pattern going to continue as we go over to whatever Flashpoint map we have next?
And we'll give you a brief moment to take a breather before entering into that third map, so don't go anywhere, as we'll be returning after the short break. We return. We've got more action ahead of you. We've had a 1-to-1 map score thus far, looking to see what this third one has for us, and it's going to be Flashpoint. One that I'm actually pretty thrilled to commentate a little bit. You know, you and I, like we mentioned, we haven't had the luxury of being able to do so, as we know that we get to go to Surasa next, which this one, I just aesthetically love this map.
Yeah, I agree. I think this map is very interesting as well in terms of like compositions that we see. Obviously, what we saw in Owl playoffs will be probably a little bit different. Sigma did like crop up a little bit towards the back end with like Mayhem playing it quite a bit to kind of counter some of those Winston compositions we were seeing a lot of, but I think this map has like very enclosed points to fight around, which is going to be interesting to me again when we see that conversation of like the Genji versus the Mei, which feels like between the two maps that we've seen so far has been really the focal point, right? On Antarctic Peninsula, it was great when it was the Genji working out in those enclosed areas. You can get to the backline much easier, but when we went to Ichenwalde, a map that's a little bit more, let's say, longer, I'll use that word, the Mei got a lot more value in terms of being able to manipulate the geometry of the map and really get value from the rotation. So I think that going into this map is going to be something to look out for all the people watching at home.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, with this map specifically, in the way that it functions, I also just really like the almost give and take in that sense, because a lot of the time you see the team that does take it first, specifically because of that subtle increase in percentage gain, has that likelihood of being able to take it on a second engagement if they lose it. So understanding where you kind of cut your losses and find the next specific point to try and take advantage of is a really clever methodology behind understanding, all right, we're just going to focus on this next one because we just have to leave it. Like, we have to abandon this and try and prepare ourselves for the next active point.
I think one of the other things about this, like Flashpoint in particular, how it differs from Control, is that the time to tick up for like the percentages is like I would say way quicker, but like it might be like not as noticeable for people out there. It is like it's like 3, maybe 2 fights potentially that you can have. So those first fights are really impactful, and like you mentioned as well, kind of the decision at the end, like, do we get them on the rotation? Do we take the fight when they're at 99% and like try and win back a fight like that? Because it is hard on a map like this to bring it back from a 0 to 99 situation. So that'll be interesting to see, as well, as it's our first time looking through a map like this, to see where we go in terms of the rotations, fighting, where the fights happen and how they happen.
As we wait patiently to get into this map, again, we're going to get that lovely overhead. It's just so pretty. And then you can really see the 4 objective points, well, 5 technically, because mark it in the middle. This is we're going to be looking to go into that. And again, we already can see, leaning into it, that you have Ball State sticking to what they're confident with, and it's going to be that Mei. And I'm just really looking forward to seeing how, once again, we get to see those walls, because there are multiple points on here that wall can be crippling if you find a perfect position and divide the team.
Yeah, I think not only dividing, but blocking, right? Because if you can block an entrance, because there's kind of those 2 entrance ways that are opposite each other that teams like to fight on. If you can block that and then just go directly onto the point, you have that ability to maneuver around those walls. You have some high ground to play with as well, and the enemy team can't see you doing that through the walls. So I think that, again, as we go into this one, we have the same matchups we did in the last match, that Mei versus that Genji. Where is Ball State going to set up? And they're just going to go directly onto the point and say, we're going to try and take one of these areas away from you with that Mei wall, and just start poking each other.
Completely taking over this marketplace for the moment, having the positional advantage, and keeping Grandview away as Raven Strider comes out the gate once again with an icicle that lands true. Instant percentage gain, and now you just have Grandview opting to bail, look for the recovery, but Ball State says, you're not getting out of here cleanly. We are going to press the attack, but have to be cautious. Monway is still alive and gets the immortality field to guarantee it.
But I mean, I think if you're there, if you're Grandview University, just die. There's no reason to really take that fight even longer, because again, look at how fast the percentage has gone up. It's already at 40% for Ball State University, and now we're seeing finally Zoe go over to that Genji, as we'll see Raven Strider. I mean, this has been something that we've been seeing Raven Strider pop off of a lot more in these last 2 maps is these directs with the icicles doing so much damage, and if Grandview University don't take these fights quickly with that Genji comp, you are always in danger of just one icicle completely ruining you, and now Grandview University want that for themselves, but at 75%, this is the last fight for Grandview.
Yep, only opportunity to turn it back. That second fight, Finger Paint is eviscerated on entry, and now Grandview 100% needs to bail out of this, instantly give up the space and look for the next point, but they're once again overstaying their welcome and just having to wait for the respawn until we find out what that next activated point is.
And actually, this is great for Grandview University. It's just right there. Now they have all control of this point for themselves, and Grandview University are going to have to, again, start walking in to this Ball State University team that Grandview University has kind of opted into their playstyle right now. With this May, Ball State University seem like they are so adept at using this composition that if you're Ball State University and you're seeing that May on the other side, you're thinking, great, we have such an advantage here.
And the other dynamic, too, is specifically with Palace. There's a lot of these high ground areas. There's a lot of balconies that you can use, this narrow edge that you can swing around. The disruptor shot, as you can see, already slowing their entry. They've been locked in place. The blizzard keeps them frigid to the core and will take this fight out the gate. Despite it being contested, it's definitely all Ball State here in Palace.
And that's only a singular May Blizzard used for that fight win. So now when Grandview University come back into this fight with a full 5-pack of ultimates, Ball State University still has a lot to deal with that and could potentially flip a fight for themselves. So the ultimate economy is not really favoring any one team, and that's a beautiful situation for Ball State University to be in like this because of the fact that they are able to just use that singular ultimate and win a fight easy peasy, now take up that percentage.
And Ball State playing more so towards the main point instead of this high ground. Flux is active to reposition. Nice wall to counteract some of the initial damage, but it just completely crumbles under what is being shot from a distance. Amplification matrix now, the reposition from what? Looking for shots through that matrix to guarantee it. Finger Paint gets the elimination, and this is once again finally a moment for Grandview to take a moment of relief that they say we take this back. But again, 70+% accumulated here for Ball State, and they just have to look for one fight next and have 2 ultimates.
Really good coordination and comms, though, from Grandview University. That Gravitic Flux pulling You Can't Ghost up into the air like that, and then what gets the freest rail shot that they've ever going to get in their life when that Baptiste is up in the, or when that Sojourn is up in the air. I think that's a combo that a lot of teams we're going to see more of if we continue to see this composition, is just that Gravitic Flux being an alley-oop for the Sojourn like that. But Ball State University, both their support ultimates online. Will we see them be aggressive here and try to take this side area with this amount of shielding and also amplified damage with that Amp Matrix?
Toe-to-toe on the high ground. Very fast movement by Monway. The jump from Immortality Field usage in the back, unfortunately, isn't going to be enough. It is overwhelming for Ball State, and they have swiftly lost that fight.
Yeah, I mean, that was a really great, just perfectly timed May Blizzard coming out from Zoe there, knowing that if they're going to take this fight in this enclosed area, if there isn't a Gravitic Flux to block it, this is going to be the freest Blizzard of my life. And now at 82%, look at how aggressive Grandview are posturing here. They don't want Ball State to even get a chance to touch.
No, they want to guarantee they make it a 1-for-1 round. Rutt gonna get a great shot as they slide away, and Ball State says, we're gonna keep pushing a little bit further, but unfortunately that's not gonna be what you want, because this next activation is where Grandview can take the advantage. Couple of decent trades though, so that it's not gonna be as easy to take, with Temple being the next on the completely opposing side of the map here. This actually could lead in favor of Ball State where their spawn is.
Ball State, though, did stagger a little bit, and also the fact that Yakester used that sound barrier as a desperation tactic to try and get them onto that point didn't get any value, so now Grandview is going to be in the driver's seat when this fight comes to have that sound barrier shielding to be able to basically brute force their way in or negate some of the damage coming in from Ravenstrider's Blizzard. But you look at Ball State already having control, but Ravenstrider just a little bit behind the fight, now is going to be here with that Blizzard in tow.
We'll see how quickly they launch that into the mix. Nice amplification matrix, utilizing the off angle to get some damage into that left-hand side. The Flux is active. Maneuvering out of the way, Finger Paint surviving through it, weathering quite a bit on the intake. As the counter Flux comes in, Finger Paint is low, the health is dwindling, and that is a 2-piece here to put in the back pocket, with a third to follow up from Monway as Ball State claims this next round.
one of the things I like about Ball State's composition and how they're playing this as well is that they never seem like they're really frazzled too much. Right there, it was a fight that they were kind of on the back foot a little bit, but one thing that Monway does so well is just holds that gravitic flux until there is no type of defensive ultimate to deal with or defensive cooldown, most notably that immortality field. Then it's just a fight win guarantee. There's nothing to be able to save you from that damage, and Ball State University have a great position right now to continue to tick up as, oh my god, that was so close. That Baptiste was not long for this world.
Yeah, Hogrune's Stone is just like, oh, guys, I need some help. Help me out, everybody, please. Amplification Matrix now active, getting some massive damage onto Monway into the corner, but a huge recovery tactic until there is just so much throughput that denies Monway from sticking close, but the 2 picks that come in from the overclock are buying more time, and the boop is there as well.
Oh, I mean, it's Boops versus Boops right here. Who's going to end up winning out? It looks like it is Ball State University, as Canary is going to have to get out of dodge. Eventually going to go down as well, and this is going to be Ball State University taking this second point, and now they're on, I guess, map point is what we'll call it here as we go to our 4th one.
Curious to see if it's going to be Garden or Runes where it transitions to. It's actually going to be Garden, so there is a equal, roughly about distance from their spawn to position. What a boom. I love it. There's another one. Yeah, there's just countless ones. Just like the ultimates being denied in our previous map, there's just a plethora of environmental kills. As we look now to potentially the last point here, Garden is where they already instantly aggress onto. Ball State once again taking the positional advantage, hugging that inner wall. The disruptor shot, more so of a zoning tactic to deny them from pressing into this as they utilize the wall. They've separated the outskirts. You can't see. Ghost is fleeing from this instantly, and Yakister gets a great pickup onto their counterpart, and now another comes in onto what?
The idea was so good there from Grandview University. Use that wall to section off You Can't Ghost from the rest of the team, but You Can't Ghost saves their most important cooldown, that shift to get out of dodge, and then when you're on that side angle there, it's very easy to just get booped off like we saw what happened to Canary from Yakester, who's gotten, I think, 4 boop kills already in this map, and I mean, look at the treasure trove of ultimates Ball State University have right now to their advantage. It's going to be difficult for Grandview University to match it up.
And we'll see if Zoe is able to make something worthwhile from this ultimate as Ball State plays clustered together. Patient until the most optimal time to enter. Finger Paint rushing in, going for the accretion, gets the stun, the double tap after. Cryo freezes force, Blizzard is active. Ball State at this point can afford to lose it. They have the ultimate bank. They're going to give it for free at this point with a couple of chip damage shots and even taking down 1. But they have one last chance now to swing back into this with all 5 and are going to slap Grandview with a wallet.
Yeah, really love what iFingerPaint did there, just going aggressively onto Monway, especially knowing that the Blizzard was in tow. If you hit that accretion, it's an insta-kill, and without Monway and that shielding from the Sigma and just that stalwart presence, you're going to lose that fight, and Grandview University keep 4 very key ultimates in their bank to match the 5 that Ball State University are going to have, and if Ball State University win this, Rich, it's going to be looking like 2-1 as we go into our 3rd map.
Now with final seconds remaining, the overclock being held onto. Amplification Matrix initiating the fight. Sound Barrier does get out in time, barely by Canary on the outskirts. As the Amplification Matrix falls, the damage amp is gone. There is a retaliation factor where what goes down? Monway finds it, a stone onto Ravenstrider, but still has the Blizzard counteracting. 67% and climbing. Grandview unfortunately does not have enough in the tank to get them through the onslaught of ultimates that Ball State has, and Ravenstrider doesn't even need to use it. It was there as an insurance policy, but they didn't even sign the documents. They threw it out. They swap it back 25% now to guarantee this final engagement.
Yeah, and we'll see if Grandview University can even get to this point to touch. You can see what she's already gone over towards that Tracer just to be able to get onto that point and try and proc that overtime. But Ravenstrider still, throughout all of that, has held on to this mate Blizzard. So Ball State Grandview has a lot to work through here.
What? Guaranteeing the overtime. Has to force the recall. No longer has that lifeline as the wall divides. Up front, Zoe barely alive. A Blizzard looking to be dropped. The Immortality Field. It is a frigid wasteland on Gardens, but who's going to weather it? It is 99 into the overtime as it still lights up right in the kill feed. Ball State able now to put themselves onto a match point position here as they close out this Flashpoint.
Surasa going to end up going in favor of Ball State University here, looking really clean again with this mate composition. I do have to give credit to the other side in Grandview University, though. when they started to go over towards that Mei, they actually looked pretty good for themselves. Like, it looked a lot better than the Genji. They had some good moments, but one of the things Ball State did so well was they were able to get into positions at the start of the Flashpoints really quick. And that's usually where you want to be in maps like this, right? If you can always have the advantage to be the first ones to get to that point, you have that chance for the Mei to just hit these shots like we've seen Ravenstrider do, or for You Can't Ghost to do the same. Really heads up play rotation wise coming in from Ball State University.
Well, and that's the unique part of this map, because it worked out very well because it went to Market, of course, in the center to start it off, and then transitioned to Palace because they had such an advantage aggressively over Grandview. And then even when things started to look a little bit shaky at Palace, there was enough damage that came out from Ball State because Temple, the one that is closer to Ball State's spawn, allows them to recover despite it not being a one round in that sense on the previous one. So it gave them that advantage, like you mentioned. And again, the other thing too is you commented mid-cast about Monway specifically, understanding this ebb and flow and overusage of survival abilities and the utility necessary, and waiting for the most optimal moment to capitalize and swing these fights favorably for Ball State.
I think that's what the entirety of Ball State University.
Yeah.
Even when it came to their ultimate economy, right? This last fight that we saw, Ball State used those 3 ultimates very early to kind of counteract the ones from Grandview, but they kept the overclock. They kept Ravenstrider's Blizzard, knowing that we have the patience in ourselves to not just commit 5 ultimates to a fight that we know we can win with potentially 3 or 4, right? I think that's another, in terms of just like the players, but also that's a coaching thing, being able to kind of understand your ultimate economy and not just throwing it to the wind because you have the ability to do so. They were very patient with their ultimates, very patient with understanding the cooldowns from the other side, and I think that was one of the edges that gave Ball State University that win. But to credit Grandview, I think, again, going over to that Mei helped a lot. They had some good moments in that round. It was definitely a lot closer than Ichenwalde. I mean, completely. So I think that there is a way back into this for Grandview University, especially now going over to a map that is going to favor them a little bit more, potentially in push that they're going to be able to choose.
And I have high hopes for Grandview because their adaptability and recognition, they're not like bashing their head against the wall. Like, they know that there needs to be these decisions to give them something more favorably. And as we do have that selection of Esperanza next, hopefully this will be a moment where we can see Grandview be able to bring this into a map 5 and see if they're able to turn it back around.
Will we see any? This has been kind of rigid, I'll say, in terms of the compositions, where we've seen the Sigma mostly more so than anything. Been a lot of Sojourn as well. When you have that one-shot potential, it's very hard to kick those kind of heroes out of the meta, I'll say. But for this map in Esperanza, this is one where we usually saw a lot more like dive-centric compositions. Poke can still work on this, don't get me wrong, but it feels like this could be potentially somewhere where the Genji does have some value, especially with the ability to get onto those high grounds. You can flank really well with Genjis here, especially on that first point with the clock tower. You can get to those side angles. If that's something that, you know, Grandview wants to do, they can do it. But I think that with what they showed on Surasa, the Mei isn't a bad option either. The worry I would have there is that you're playing against a team that is very good at the Mei comp, right? You're kind of handshaking against Ravenstrider, who, you know, map 1 was a little bit scary, but ever since map 2 and map 3, Ravenstrider's just been lights out on that Mei.
Yeah, and again, it could be almost like a high-risk, high-reward methodology where they go onto this map, it touches on the Genji viability that you had brought to the table, and it allows them to attempt this out the gate. Doesn't seem to work. They say, all right, this is like our final moment to say we're going to give it one last shot. If it doesn't work, you opt to go back to the Mei and then play the rest of roughly about probably like 8 minutes to try and counteract the Mei, and then you give up that select margin of distance and accept the loss. So I could see it really going either way if they want to match it head-to-head out the gate, or they take this final implementation of that Genji selection.
It is a big gamble, too, because we have to remember, we're still on single limb, right?
Yeah, like, this is the single limb part.
You need to really come correct, especially when your chances of getting to that top 8 are dangling by a thread here on match point. So maybe there's something in their locker with this Esperanza pick that they're picking up that can maybe match up against that Sigma, or they're going to just think that they have a better play style potentially on a map like this where they can use that high ground effectively for themselves. We'll have to see what we get into. As I think one of the things that we haven't seen too much of, which makes sense to me, is that this seems like a map, or seems like a composition where Bastion could potentially be viable. We saw it back on Antarctic Peninsula, but Bastion has been through the ringer in terms of nerfs, right?
Yeah.
Like, Bastion is not the same hero. Even like back when Grand Finals was happening, I think that this has been a different hero altogether with those nerfs. But it actually looks like Grandview University is bringing it to the table. What's going to be on it? And again, with these kind of long sight lines and these areas with the grenade, if you can get to a position where you can get Ant Matrix for Bastion, it's just going to melt through. But you are losing that one-shot potential that the Sojourn is going to bring to you.
Well, and they're keeping the component of the May as well. Instead of opting to have the Bastion in alongside the Sojourn, they want to coordinate this with the May still to potentially stifle Ravenstrider. And now you can see that you can't see Ghost with a wide flank, a rush tactic onto Monway. The Immortality Field has been brought down. Is there enough follow-up from what? The stun buys a few extra seconds, so the tank configuration can't get that extra damage out onto the front line. And unfortunately, Canary gets picked up in the fray.
Yeah, and that's going to be really big because that means there's no speed, so the Bastion can't maneuver as well as they would like and get into those sight lines to be able to pump out that damage. And gotta be waiting for Canary to get back into this one. What's already taken down though, and that's all the damage lost for Grandview, and their health bars are getting absolutely melted. And the gamble does not end up paying off for Grandview at the start here, and Ball State's gonna take an advantage now as we get to this first underpass.
And with them holding this very forward position, you can't see Ghost. Alongside Monway are going to guarantee getting that intel if there's any compositional adjustments. Everyone's staying on Grandview the same, holding this position for now. The Amplification Matrix is the only thing that's really online because of how much healing was coming through from the Baptiste.
But they have to be very careful on Grandview's perspective because Ball State are ahead in terms of those other key ultimates since they lost that fight a little bit quicker as, oh, that's a very close kill on the Baptiste, but Gravitic Flux comes after it.
So many on this. Oh no, they got rid of the Immortality Field in time, just over it, and you can see that Monway knows it, feeling so good after that one. Yeah, let's hear the symphony. Let's get it going. Play them tunes on the stones.
A little bit of composition coming in there, but great presence of mind, specifically from You Can't Ghost to rail shot that Immortality Field, and that's already a first checkpoint for Ball State University, and they are playing at an incredible level right now. Just the Gravitic Flux to win that fight in, especially on a map like this in Esperanza, it's just a huge lead that Grandview has to come back from.
Blizzard now locking down one, guarantees an isolation and a follow-up onto Zoe, and they are going to continue to throttle. This is an absolutely dominant performance.
And again, it's just Ball State understanding that ultimate economy that we talked about, right? You don't have to throw out all your ultimates, just one Gravitic Flux, one Blizzard. That's enough to win these fights. Grandview University are staring down the barrel of being eliminated right here as, I mean, how do they get back in? It's going to be so difficult to get back into this one. Yeah. Yes, they've gotten back over to the Sojourn, offering that one-shot potential. The Bastion didn't end up working. There's going to be that Blizzard from Zoe to potentially stop the bleeding, but they have to do it now.
Flux onto Monway, gets the elimination. Tank is down, supports are fleeing, so that gives them a chance to now recompose themselves and can reset this back to the neutral, but Ball State should have more than enough time to get to that archway right here on the opposing side.
One neat little thing that I want to point out to the viewers is that Zoe actually put up a fantastic wall under the Sigma when they were getting Gravitic Flux so that the Immortality Field couldn't catch them. That was a really, really cheeky little play that won them that fight that took out the Sigma, as actually we're going very aggressive here. Blizzard committed.
Another lockdown onto Monway. They are just taking out this front line strength that has been ever present from Ball State so that they can hyper-focus onto the remaining few. And Ravenstrider, unfortunately, can't do anything to get away from this.
I mean, this is a way back in, right, for this team, right? You've gotten a couple of key ultimates out of Ball State University. You had to commit a few key ones yourself, but the biggest thing now is that you have this high ground, right? This high ground can potentially be converted into a butt scratch and then converted into some meterage after that. That's really what you gain if you're this Grandview University team, but I love this decision-making from Ball State University, just rotating back around, not taking the fight by that lower area, but they're just going to try and brute force their way onto the high ground. I like this.
Quick movement up the stairway, Amplification Matrix down the funnel. Nice stun off the edge there as well, just in the outskirts onto the Lucio, so it forces them to have to regroup with the rest of the team. Spencer getting a lot of damage through that Ant Matrix until it finally falls, and now it's a little bit more dicey here for Monway, but goes in with the Flux, landing it instantly onto two, and that will clean this up quickly with, once again, only a Flux truly committed into that after the Amplification Matrix.
I mean, we've talked a lot about Ravenstrider in particular, but Monway with these fluxes has been like really clean, not only in this map, but in the previous maps that we've seen from them. The Sigma usage has just been impeccable, especially those accretions that are getting a ton of value to just make iFingerPaint's life miserable in a lot of these scenarios. And now again, with half the map left for these two teams, 5 minutes, Grandview University have to make a really big play here, and here comes the Grid Flux. It doesn't hit anything, though.
Everyone disperses out of the circle. iFingerPaint actually still managing to get Monway, but the Blizzard attempting to counteract this by Ravenstrider since they've held onto it for such an extensive period of time. Separation away. It's only Zoe as an opportunity of eliminating one, a casualty being two. It's equalizing now as you've got what aggressing forward. Can't quite land the shots. The bob and weave.
That's one of the worst feelings. Oh, Canary 2 is going to end up going down. Spencer gets 2, and these elongated fights like this always are going to favor Ball State with the huge lead that they have. They get back into this fight with Yakester bringing them back in, and now they're just going to try and hold this spot here, take as much time away from Grandview as possible, and force out as many ultimates as possible in the meantime.
Yeah, this 4 minutes remaining is going to start becoming more and more heart racing for Grandview. They do have a space to get back, but again, high ground obtained for the moment with these flanking angles. Nice opportunity to regroup and fall back. iFingerPaint gonna look to hold them as they transition across this bridgeway. Curious to see if the accretion is gonna get anything. Does manage to do so again, as we've seen from iFingerPaint, but they get covered. The immortality field is there. It keeps them going, and they don't have to commit any other ultimate outside of the Blizzard that was tossed into this. And you can see that Ball State now are actually getting quite run over in this moment, thinking that they could have actually gone toe-to-toe.
Yeah, no DPS, that means they have to retreat out of here, and this should guarantee a checkpoint coming out for Grandview University at the current moment. They still have both their support ultimates available to them as well, so when Ball State University comes back to try and contest, they have a way to try and block them out, especially with that Ant Matrix. That's going to be a big one in this enclosed area here.
Ooh, look at the flanking position for the May underneath. Ravenstrider collapsing onto Fingerpaint, locked into the Flux as well. Beautiful sound barrier, though, by Canary. Amplification Matrix still allowing some decent angles for the extra damage as the wall blocks the rest of the few. What finds the pickup onto Monway since the healers were just too far out of range, and what now comes in clutch with a second.
They're able to get 3 kills here, and that's actually going to be a complete team wipe for Ball State University. They're going to end up going down in a fight that looks so good to start off. Really fantastic peel from Grandview University to keep iFingerPaint alive throughout all that, because after that Maywall sectioned iFingerPaint from the rest of the team, I thought that fight was completely done. But Grandview University get a new lease on life, and now that lead that was huge for Ball State University is not looking as insurmountable as it was beforehand.
And iFingerPaint looking for the Flux, goes right into it from the high ground, instantly focusing down the supports, able to get them since there was no immortality field, and a second onto Ravenstrider. They are putting themselves in a beautiful position to bring this to a map 5.
And we talk a lot about Monway, but iFingerPaint there, incredible presence of mind, just seeing the DPS by themselves, knowing that there's no Baptiste around, just flux them both, take one down, and you win that fight, and this might be a lead taken for Grandview here.
They have to rush out to it. They barely get there in time. The Lucio is present. They're frigidly frozen in the back. Spencer eliminated. Fingerpaint plays forward and gets it. The stun comes in. It buys them enough time, but Monway comes in as the shining force that we've seen before, holding the line with just a fraction of a meter left, as they are now able to push them away and hold on for dear life.
Oh, that's heartbreak for Grandview University, especially with the minute and 30 seconds. That feels like that was their chance to be able to take this map, but Ball State University, specifically Yakester, just get onto that payload in time for it not to tick over to the advantage of Grandview University, and Grandview University don't have anything when it comes to their ultimates. And I love this decision making from Ball State University, just moving this bot as slow as possible and putting themselves in a great position with those high ground to be able to poke down onto Grandview as they aggress.
Reset back to the neutral. There was an attempt to try and get the wall to separate Monway once again here with that accretion that came through the Flux. Now onto 3. The immortality field's already been used, so they're going to just fall like flies with 50 seconds to go now. It is final fight territory for Grandview to take this bot all the way back.
I mean, Grandview have to play perfectly from here on out, Rich. I'm thinking like 4, maybe 5 ultimates or 5 fights just perfectly played from them. Yeah. Yes, they have their support ultimates. iFingerPaint's coming up towards a Goridic Flux, but from here on out, you cannot make any mistakes with 30 seconds left.
And we'll see if they're able to pull through. Nice dodge and evasion from the accretion up front by Canary. Zoe cautiously pushing into this nice wall to separate. They have to sidestep around it with the Baptiste to give them the necessary assistance. There's the Amp Matrix. Sound barrier comes in from Yegster in the back. A flux from Finger Paint. Can it turn the tides? Monway is down. That's the first step in the right direction. It is a lifeline that is given to them to push this back, to look for that neutral position, and they take this fight and now have to look to the next, and they're leaning into 2 ultimates.
I mean, those 2 ultimates between that Overclock and between that May Blizzard are going to be incredibly impactful, but I mean, look at the other side, Rich. Ant Matrix, there's 2 ultimates from their end as well. Monway definitely is going to have a Griddick Flux here. Grandview have to make something happen. I think they have to be the ones to hit the go button first. What needs to find a way to get into position where this Overclock can find some value into that back line and break the fight open before Ball State get a chance to get comfortable and use their ultimates themselves, but it's everything to play for right here.
And if Finger Paint can find another aggressive play as they've done before onto Monway and eliminate somebody, that will be absolutely beneficial to them. Blizzard is active. They've separated him away. They get it. They find him caught out, but now there's a counter Blizzard locking it down. Spencer gets 1 onto what, and it's just now a domino effect. You have this high ground position. They're cleaning it up with the Ant Matrix. Ball State might have given them one last hope and breath for chance, but unfortunately it is not enough, and Ball State is going to knock out Grandview and continue on past the 32.
That was such a good idea at the end there. They sectioned off Monway perfectly from the rest of the team, took out that Sigma, but unfortunately, the wallet differential was just too much. The ultimates from the other side of Ball State just unfortunately too much for Grandview to deal with, and Ball State University take a 3-1 victory. Now we'll head into that top 16. A relatively, I mean, this was a much closer Esperanza than I thought it was, especially after like the first 5 minutes where it was like 100-0. Grandview University, great, props to them for being able to pull that one back as close as it was, but just at the final hurdle, they did not have the fuel to be able to take it to a map 5.
Unfortunately, running on fumes towards the end of it, could not capitalize on it. Major props to Ball State as they move forward. Again, all in all, this is, I personally think, a really great series to start off this weekend, though, when it comes to intensity level, type of methodology of plays, some really, really clever tech, even like you mentioned when it came to the wall, into the flux to deny that immortality field. There's so much ahead of us, and if this is what we have to start, the adventure only gets more lucrative and more adventurous.
We had a C9 already, too, so
I know, right? We're already winning.
We've already hit our quota, it feels like, at the start of this Collegiate Homecoming Championship, but I think you're right. This was a great series to start things off. It was a 3-1, but I think it was a lot closer than it would that scoreline would indicate usually between both of these teams. But Ball State University, I think, towards the back end, specifically with that May comp and with Ravenstrider and Monway's play, really took it over.
Woo! I'm just happy. I'm just happy to be back in Collegiate.
When was the last time we cast? It's been a while.
I know.
Since we cast.
I was thinking about it. It was championship series, right? It had to be. I mean, I think there's like a small little thing that we did, but that was about it. Yeah,
no.
So it's a long old time.
It's wild to me that it's already October. That's
yeah.
I'm screwed up. I'm screwed up for that. But like everything else, yeah, I'm just happy to be back with Collegiate. Happy to watch these teams, and Ball State University probably very happy that they get to the top 16. Yep. And for them, one more win and you're into that double elimination top 8, so we'll see if they can continue that one. But hats off again to Grandview. I think played a great series. A few fights go here and they're potentially walking away with that win, but it is going to be Ball State University taking us to that top 16.
And with the victory going in favor of Ball State, we will be having a lovely interview with one of their players, and we'll be with that in just a moment after the short break, so don't go anywhere. We return, my friends, as we are here with an amazing interview to bring to you. It's exciting to be able to speak to Yakester. How you doing, my friend? Feeling pretty good after that win, aren't you?
Oh yeah, we're feeling pretty great after that one.
I mean, so kind of walk me through a little bit about the series, because I'm interested, like, is this something in terms of the meta, like, you think is this what a lot of the teams have settled on? Is this something that you guys are just very familiar with and you've been practicing? Like, what is your take rather, on what the current meta setup looks like? Because we didn't see too much, like, versatility with a lot of the core aspects of this comp.
Unfortunately, the Sig meta is kind of just beats everything. So a lot of our team comps just revolve around Sig, Lucio, Bap, Mei, and then sometimes switch out a Sojourn for Bastion. But it's kind of rare to see a lot of differences in comps, just because Sig is really in a good place, Bastion's in a good place, Mei's in a good place. So you can kind of just run over any comp, you can out-rotate any comp. It kind of sucks, it's a little stale, but you got to do what you got to do, you know?
You got the dub, so I mean,
I was gonna say, yeah.
For you guys.
You may say it's stale, but you playing it well and you being able to move on here versus going home. So that's something that's really exciting. And even before we got into the interview, you mentioned about how you and the rest of your team are actually all like in like a singular like dorm room or in a room that you're sharing with one another. So talk to me a little bit about what that feeling is like versus like playing remotely where you're all in your own different rooms and just kind of having like a scrim building all the time.
So I live in a house with including myself, it's 5 roommates. It's my coach, my other support, one of my DPS, and my tank. We're all very close, and even as a team, we are very close friends. It's just a really good deal in the house, and besides that, it's such a fun little environment. Just getting to... It is a scrim room all the time. I'm scrimming here. If I have any issues, my coach is usually standing behind me telling me I'm doing something stupid, and he's floating from room to room. And then in between rounds of games, we're all out in the kitchen, we're celebrating, we're taking a loss together, taking a win together. So it's a super fun environment.
Does that help in terms of just like the mental? Because I imagine like just being able to kind of like, take a step back from your PC, go and, see the rest of your team in like the kitchen or whatever, and then kind of refresh, I guess you would say. Is that something that you guys kind of like really value in terms of like having the house available to you? Because I think that would be something that helps to be able to just be like, I can go see my friends. I don't really have to sit in my PC and just stew over a loss or anything like that.
Yeah, 100%. It is something that I say we all very much so like. Getting out, let's say a tough loss, we order some food, we watch some TV, we get to talk it through, and then completely just put Overwatch out of our mind and be friends and roommates. And especially with wins, it is so much fun. We've had so many close wins, especially in Homecoming, where as soon as we're all done, the entire house erupts. We're all running around, we're all screaming, we're carrying somebody. Like it's
Oh, okay. So who's the one you carry? Who's like the lightning rod?
Manway.
You answered that really quick.
He had one of the craziest plays I've ever seen in a Circuit Royale game. He clutched up like a 1v5 straight up. He had so much damage, had like 23k. It was the craziest one ever. We carried him up, and it was just, we had to celebrate it.
It's almost ironic that it's the Sigma player who's supposed to levitate. I don't know if that's like like something that was planned, but that just works out. Okay. Well, overall, I mean, the way that you've been playing and looking forward now, again, you're still fighting to continue working through this, getting into the double elimination. How are you feeling going forward after this win? Is it really just at this point now it bolsters you a lot more because of the way that you played? It's like warmed you up at this sense now that you're not feeling too concerned, or do you still kind of, have a little bit of that looming like concern of like, okay, like who's next? Like what are we gonna do? The methodology behind it, how are we gonna play? Anything different like that?
I mean, we're definitely riding the high of the win a little bit. We're very amped up to play this next match, but in all honesty, we are definitely heavily looking towards the mistakes we've made and how to obviously not make this again. Our coach is working really hard right now, making sure that we're ready for this next match and ready to give it our all, and no opponent stands in our way.
Ooh, I like that. Okay, I want to take it back a little bit to you in particular, kind of on the Lucio. What do you like? So Lucio in this current adaptation of the meta, what would you say is like your number one job? Because I've seen a couple of times like you dive very aggressively with You Can't Ghost, but you're also peeling at the same time. Do you just kind of wear many hats, or is there like one thing in particular that Lucio players do more so in this meta than like in another meta?
Unfortunately, it's kind of like a jack of all trades at the moment. It's making sure I'm peeling for my support, I'm poking at different angles where flankers could be, I'm amping my core onto whatever target my tank is calling. There's just all sorts of different mini jobs I have, but at the end of the day, once the fight starts to win, I kind of just don't think about it and I do my own thing, you know?
You start to fall, everything starts to fall into place, and you just kind of let it ride, it seems. So, I mean, well, you've been doing a miraculous job in the way that you've been keeping tabs of all of that. We truly do appreciate your time to chit-chat with us and get to have this kind of conversation. So we'll let you go have a moment with your team in your communal area before having to get to another game. So thank you so very much once again for your time, my friend.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me here.
Absolutely. Oh, Kenobi, that's so cool. I would love that. Like, that'd be so cool. I didn't see.
Just
I
like
was
picking
like,
up your friends after you like want them. Yeah, that sounds pretty awesome that they're all in that house. And that's one of the things. I mean, that I think is great about like the collegiate space. It's like, yeah, they're all like in this house together, but also like they seem like just like really good friends outside of it too. And I think that camaraderie is something that you can't really, very much reminiscent of like college football almost, where it's like that camaraderie is a really big deal. Just having a team of just 5 players that are going to be with you no matter what. We're friends outside of it as well. So I think that kind of dynamic is very cool to see with these teams that we've seen through Collegiate.
And that's, there's so many that have said the same thing, just that type of feeling that they get from the friendships that they develop. And it's such a great thing to see. Is we're going to be able to take now a look at what our next match is going to be. We've been able to finally see the conclusion of the other maps. So now we can tell you that it is University of California, Irvine versus University of St. Thomas. And, we were like having our predictions of who's going to be here. And it's going to be nice to see St. Thomas coming in to compete against UCI.
Yeah, I think that St. Thomas, I would consider that an upset over what happened against the Fisher College team. Like that, I think University of St. Thomas being here against UCI is a big deal, and that should be a matchup that really, I think, is great to follow up one like this that we've just seen between Ball State University and Grandview University. UCI, I mean, a team that I think you and I are very familiar with. Like, they come in every season and they just find a way to make top 6, find a way to make top 4. Like they're always there at any time, and they do it in a really fun way where there's potentially, not as many of those like big names, right? They can kind of pride themselves on that. So I can't wait to see which of these two teams will make it to that top 8. Again, a lot of stakes here for both of them as we go towards tomorrow, where we finally figure out that top 8 double win.
And we'll be having that map coming up next after the short break, so don't go anywhere, friends. Grab your drink, grab your food, because this one's going to be a good one. Well, fancy seeing you here. Of course you're here. You're still here because there's more Overwatch to be had. Collegiate Overwatch. Homecoming Overwatch. Rich Rat here with Kenobi. Yes! I'm so excited. My brain just went all over the place just because I was excited to come back. Yes, so we are going to be entering into this next game, which again, as you can see below, predictions have already opened. Let's get your insight and the details so we can tell you whether or not you're going to be right or wrong, because that's always the fun part.
I actually don't remember what they were last. I don't remember what predictions
it was 48-52, and I think it was in favor of Ball State. I'm not.
Okay.
I'll
keep
have
an
to
eye
confront
on it.
production.
This time,
right?
I'll keep an eye out on it. But
Right.
yeah, I think this is a matchup that's going to be really fun to watch, especially because of the fact that I think that University of St. Thomas coming in with that win over Fisher Chips, a team that was 9th seeded, now not even going to make it to that top 8, is, I think, to me, I would say that's one of the upsets that we've seen between a lot of these round of 32s and going into the round of 16s. University of California, Irvine, I talked a little bit before the break about this team, a team and a program we're very familiar with, right?
Yes.
This is a team that will somehow always sneak their way into the top 8, always sometimes get to the top 4 a lot of the time. This is a team that's been around forever, and I love the fact that this team likes to do it with players who aren't necessarily those like big names, you know, that come from contenders, right? You have a smattering of them in here, you know, with Zerocious, with Romani, and Mashiro as well. But beyond that, I mean, there are players that kind of are more homegrown, and I think they take a lot of pride in that, especially being able to be as successful as they have been in the past.
Yeah, and I just can't wait to see if we're going to continue to see the same type of methodology behind the way that they play, or some unique differences in comparison, as we do have the opportunity to also look at their opponent, which again, you know, St. Thomas is a university that has been able to play among a number of different titles and have very great accolades in their accomplishments. So, you know, here specifically, being able to get that upset over Fish and Chips, like you mentioned, and to continue on trying to fight their way against now UCI is a good feat.
Yeah. I mean, if you can beat out Fisher Chips and UCI and get to that top 8, you are definitely deserving. I mean, that is a great result for a team like University of St. Thomas, who have some have some players that you and I are familiar with. Noctis is one, Dan Twist as well. But again, I think that the thing about Collegiate that's always so awesome is that you have sometimes these players who just, come in, not really that well known, and then really make a name for themselves. We saw that with the Ball State and Grandview players in the last series. So now, as we go into this one, we'll see if University of California Irvine are going to be able to continue their string of getting into that top 8, or if University of St. Thomas is going to be able to take them off that pedestal.
Yeah, and I would say make another upset. I mean, again, at this point, you got to feel confident.
Yeah,
you just
I
had
would say
one.
so.
You're riding off of a win that you just had. I mean, even with the interview we just had a moment ago, of course, you're going to ride the high of being able to take that victory. And now you're going to look to see the same thing from St. Thomas, brutally taking out Fisher College, who's a very competitive team. Mind you, who has 5 teams participating in this 32. Like, they have a plethora of players that have invested into Overwatch specifically. So you've at least knocked out one of the 5, and now they continue to dwindle.
Yeah, it's the Power Rangers, I think, of Collegiate Overwatch, where you just have a bunch of different, the same colors with the different types, you got Fisher Chips, Fisher Sticks, like, there's just a bunch of different versions of that Fisher team, and then you obviously have Fisher College, that team that kind of sits at the top, that I would assume we'll see in the top 8, right? It would be very difficult for me to not see that, but going back to this game, again, it's kind of 2 very well-known esports I would say organizations, or programs rather, I think is a better word for the collegiate term. And between the 2 of them, will we see like the same thing? We heard from our interview from Yakester where he's like, yeah, the meta's kind of just very rigid because Sigma is so good. We see a lot of that Bastion, see a lot of that Sojourn, and Lucio Baptiste. Is there going to be anything different? With Romani in the lineup, it screams to me Junker Queen Roadhog. Potentially the Sigma comes out, but when I see Romani, I'm like, Roadhog is a possibility. No matter what we're looking at, there is always that possibility of the Roadhog.
And here's the thing, is I can tell you, for everyone that's viewing right now that has come in to just watch this unfold, they are all rooting for Romani to do something different, because
it'll be Joker Queen if I had to guess.
I would say the JQ as well. I think that's the most reasonable, as we do have the confirmation that it is going to be Oasis that we enter in onto first, which will be extremely exciting to see. Again, another variety that we get here, and what we're going to start and which rounds we're going to open up onto. And with that being said, we do still have a few seconds left. The predictions are there. Get them in. I really, really want to see if you're right. And the other thing is, our production let us know it was 48 Ball State University against 52 Grandview. So for all of you that were in the chat that went for Ball State, ding, 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 you're the winner.
Okay. Well, there you go. 52-48 was like relatively close.
It was.
Starting things off. So I wonder if we'll see kind of a similar close prediction from both of these teams as we go into our first map of Oasis, starting things off on Gardens. This will be a map where we see probably a little bit of variation in terms of just how the teams rotate, right? The high ground very important on a map like this. UCI hovering Junker Queen. Why am I not surprised? If you follow Romani on Twitter, every single time that Romani tweets that he's live, it's just it's the same Junker Queen gif every single time.
Every time. Hey, consistency is key, my friend. And as these doors are gonna open, why would you think of anything else?
Might as well play part of Romani's brand at this point, that the Junker Queen and the Roadhog are the 2 things that they're known for. But I'm very worried a little bit because I'm looking at University of St. Thomas's team, and I see a lot of potential front-loaded damage with a Bastion and with a May, and there is no shielding for UC Irvine. So the way that they're going to have to play this is very, split apart. They're going to have to try and find axes or knives like that from Romani, pull people off of that high ground, but this is going to be a little bit slow going for UC Irvine to start things off.
That was a nice boop to start off, dislodging them from the high ground. Barely getting out of there with only a sliver of health remaining. Nice javelin, at least to zone back this aggression forward from Romani, playing around the pillar, commanding shout. Just about to be expended, as you do see this reposition. Nice Suzu in the back as well from UCI, as they get an elimination onto Abstract, so they no longer have that May in this engagement, as the Bastion themselves is finding a pickup, but they're gone, sent back to spawn.
And UC Irvine, this is what they want to do. They want to get into these fights where it's just, it's nasty. It's just down, just in the mud. We're just fighting 5v5, a bunch of 1v1s, and University of St. Thomas can't really get the positioning and get the start of the fights that they want. Because once the Bastion uses Wheels mode, that's exactly when UC just wants to go in and make the fight that difficult for University of St. Thomas to operate through, and UC Irvine win the first fight. Now they have control of that high ground for themselves, but University of St. Thomas can come back in with that Orisa and just put it directly on point.
Yeah, and they're posturing to keep it contested for the moment, so it forces UCI to have to drop down and match it toe for the moment. Health bars so low, and members only denies access from Dash into this VIP.
Oh my god.
Oh my, that carnage is coming in. Romani chasing him down and laying waste. This is unreal with the Kitsune rush. They are completely just breaking apart St. Thomas.
This might be a 1v5. I mean, Romani's still alive here. He hasn't even flipped over, actually, and now the members are back on this point. That, I think Romani got like 3 carnages in 3 seconds. Not only with the cooldown reduction you get from carnages yourself, but with the Kitsune rush, 50% reduction. It's just hit E, hit E, hit E, we win the fight. And UC Irvine wins that fight. University of St. Thomas have to come back into this one, 3 ultimates in their bank, but that Dragon Blade from Dash, no sound barrier to deal with that. It's all going to be on that immortality field.
Carnage all day, every day. And we'll see if Dan Twist is able to get something with this. Pulled out for the moment, has to play carefully as the commanding shout has been used. The blade is active. Dash unfortunately gets picked up in the back from Abstract amongst the blizzard that's tossed out. And you can see that UCI drawing back, having to wait as Romani severs the team, goes for Dan Twist, gets that as well. But if Abstract is really starting to step up, finding these eliminations, but Romani does the same. Rampage gets Noctis. It's this consistent ebb and flow back and forth. Another carnage on the front line. Shell-shocking Abstract. And able to take this back. Oh my goodness, Romani is having a field day on this Junker Queen as it's the 99 into the overtime. No percentage gain here from St. Thomas as they are really gonna have to find a weak point in this Junker Queen comp.
Romani didn't die that entire round. No deaths for a Junker Queen against a
10 blows.
Bastion Orisa May comp. Like, that was just... I gotta give credit, though, to the peel as well, coming in from UCI. I mean, Extor and Mashiro doing an insane job of keeping Romani alive. Look at the stats that we have here. 15 limbs, 10 final blows, the most damage in the lobby by like a significant margin. He's doubling every other person in the lobby when it comes to those damage numbers, and still taking the same amount of damage as an Orisa took. Like, this is what I love about this UCI team with Romani, is that they know where their bread is buttered, and they're gonna ride Romani to a victory if it kills them.
So much butter on it, you gotta see a cardiologist. That's what's gonna happen here with the way Romani's playing as we enter in now into our second round. 20 seconds to go before it is active. As you can already see UCI leaning in to take the point first, while St. Thomas adjusts onto the high ground, forcing them to the opposing side over towards streets, waiting patiently to see if UCI is going to show their face on the front line. And Dan Twist looking for an angle that they can actually utilize the tank configuration, dropping down below. Nice flanking angle from Dash has been easily recognized and gets super low with 5 HP. Waiting for somebody to help them. Romani is stunned, and they instantly punish it as Dan Twist waits for this opportune moment.
Yeah, and now I think that with the Sigma, it's going to be a much easier time for University of St. Thomas to maneuver around the Junker Queen. Being able to throw up that shield to block some of those knives coming in, you can move the team a little bit easier with that Bastion and make sure that you're not getting pulled in, because that was something that Romani was doing a lot, was moving Dan Twist in, and Dan Twist kind of just had to throw out Wheels mode as a defensive, and that's never what you want to do in scenarios like that. So good adaptation from University of St. Thomas here. Focusing down Dash as well has been something that has really stopped him from getting value into that backline and taking down the supports.
Yeah, it was just slight peppering of damage, consistently putting Dash into, not a critical sense, but to that when they take that engagement, it's very easy to punish. Then you can see this 3-prong attack now. Dash looking to take the flanking angle. Well, you do have Romani playing the corner, the Carnage inside, but that is a Bastion with a lot of damage and a huge sweep through with the assistance as a Rampage clips onto 2, guarantees a swap back, just surpassing the 40%.
He doesn't die. Like, every time it looks like University of St. Thomas is like, oh, sick, we have Romani cornered, we have a great wall, and then bam, Suzu, Carnage, doesn't die. Okay, then you get another Carnage for free, basically, if you're hitting with 4 people, and Romani gets that ultimate, completely cleans up the fight. University of St. Thomas are doing a great job of getting Romani into these scary situations, but again, the peel from UC Irvine has been absolutely magnificent, and now UC Irvine have control of this high ground. Nice nade, boops them off, though, so this might be a bit where they're vulnerable.
Yeah. Curious if they're going to lead in with the Bastion ultimate to start, or hesitate until they can find somebody low in the back. Presence of Mind up top, keeping the supports extremely low. They're attempting to top them back up as the blade comes in. The distraction is active, and the Kitsune rush follows. 3 ultimates in total brought to the forefront of this as a counter. Blizzard and also the artillery shells gets 1, but it's an even trade 1-for-1. Dan and Zero goes down with Dash close to assist this front line for UCI. They want to eliminate the remaining few and keep this percentage growing.
And that's 5 ultimates used for University of St. Thomas there, and not a fight win. UC Irvine only having to use 4 and still taking up that percentage. And Rich, by the time we get to this next fight, it's going to be the last fight that we have, and Romani for sure is going to have that Junker Queen ultimate, and there's nothing to deal with it. Immortality won't save you. There's no sound barrier as well. If the University of St. Thomas plays on the low ground and just clumps up into Romani, this is going to be a 1-0 for UCI.
We'll be seeing a lot of purple if that happens. To some, it might be your favorite color. For St. Thomas, not so much. Romani plays close towards that center pillar. Hesitant upon entry, guaranteeing that they get that win condition with the ultimate. Nice Jagged Blade to pull them in. Commanding Shout gives the coverage for the rest of the squad as they come in like a pack of wolves. Eliminating that immortality field for St. Thomas. There is the aggression forward. It only clips Abstract, and they're able to ice block out of it, so they didn't get nearly as much value as they would have liked. It's almost swapped over. The numbers advantage for St. Thomas on the point are there, but Zerocious is starting to unleash hell onto the opposing side. St. Thomas will not be able to come back into this despite their attempt to withstand the rampage that came through. They've swapped it back for the time being because Sunny's actually still here and keeping it contested, but with the Kitsune rush, that should be the nail in the coffin.
Yeah, there's not really a way back into this one. The health bars were low with Kitsune rush healing. There's no way back into this for University of St. Thomas. Just putting in that Tracer to try and proc that overtime. We'll get back on Kiriko, Soldier, all the fast units, but not able to proc that overtime once again. And UC Irvine, Romani, almost a Romani deadlift. Almost. Very close.
Almost.
Very close.
It was at the start, easily.
It was, I mean, play of the game as well, but yeah, this was just Romani, I think, taking over the game. Again, gotta give huge shout-outs to the supports for enabling Romani in such a way, but these knives were absolutely brutal. I mean, every time that the Bastion was, in that wheels mode, Romani would just play very patiently around the geometry, wait for the end of it, and then throw a knife, because Bastion is very vulnerable in that wheels mode, right? And you just throw the knife, you pull him in, get that kill with the Sojourner with the Genji in the back end, and it's just as easy as that. You take a 1-0 lead.
I hope chat's feeling pretty good as well. Romani's putting on a show for you, talking so much about the Sigma play and everything else. Nah. Romani's like, I'm bringing in the Junker Queen, and I'm gonna come in with my suit and my golden blade to put on a show.
Yeah. I mean, it's also wild to me that, like, how far can this get you as like a team? Because like this, there's probably not many other people in Collegiate or just in Overwatch in general that are playing Junker Queen at this high of a level, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if there's that other player that you can really match up to and kind of emulate as a Junker Queen player. So it really comes down to how are you practiced against a team like this, and there's not many other people, like I said, playing in composition with Junker Queen being that focal point.
Because it's the first factor of you actually enjoying the hero itself. And Romani, as you mentioned at the start, every time we see that post, it is always Junker Queen. And then playing at this level of just dominance and understanding that you have 4 other players on your team influencing and enabling it to only make it that much more formidable is a really exciting experience.
I mean, I think the thing about it too is that, like, when you are Romani in situations like this, and there are basically 5 of the enemy team looking at you to take you down, that opens up a lot of availability for Zerocious and Dash to get value when they were taking those advantages that were being given to them. I mean, if you look at just the damage dealt to the DPS here, Zerocious took like 2,000 damage in 2 rounds of control. That's wild. Dash on a Genji took like 3.5, but no one's really getting to those DPS, and the DPS are taking those advantages and using them so effectively.
Well, and even in subtle moments where it comes to specifically on that second round, you had the supports getting so critically low. That would have been an easy opportunity for St. Thomas to take the advantage of it. But then the blade comes out. It's on the flanking angle. That bide time for the supports to gain that recovery moment, to take that breather so that they can get themselves sustained and get close enough to Romani as well for the commanding shout. All of that works in an extremely synergistic manner that gives them this massive advantage against their opponent, as we do have a confirmation that it is going to be Midtown as our next map that we get to go on and see something a little different than what we had earlier.
Yeah, this kind of reminds me of like when teams troll.
Yeah, the amount of force exerted to make it be formidable is definitely elevated. But if there is anybody that we know within this scene that can do it on the Junker Queen, it is Romani, as we will enter in onto this. And again, Midtown, I'm so curious on how they're going to play specifically this Junker Queen, because as you mentioned, the Reinhardt has been, viable, what we've seen from professional play, but is there going to be those subtle differences, and what are those subtle differences for those that are Junker Queen fanatics themselves at home, and how they're going to potentially apply this to their own gameplay?
I don't think there are too many Junker Queen. I think she's the most fun tank, actually.
I think she's
really
fun.
Like her.
Even though I'm an Orisa one-trick, I still do find Junker Queen extremely fun. I mean, because I can tell you, St. Thomas right now, they're still healing their wounds from all the jagged blades that they've had in them from that previous round.
Yeah, and I think that now on the defensive end, this is where it kind of like becomes a little bit of an issue, because like you can very easily stonewall a team here with like a rush composition, and then it becomes much easier for their offense, where if it's like, if UC Irvine were to be on offense first, then it's like, okay, well, we just have this like one shot, and then it's like potentially we get full hold, because attacking on this map is very difficult with the rush composition. And one of the interesting things though is that Mashiro on the Lifeweaver has gotten a lot of buffs recently, made them very, very good. We've seen Rakatech play it, but this is going to be great for being able to pull the Junker Queen out of any troubling scenarios.
Yeah, don't let Romani get stuck in a situation that is not favorable to them. Oh, that's a lot of damage onto Zerocious. Nice recovery there, though, from the supports to keep them topped up, and they are not in a detrimental spot. Abstract, slowly but surely getting damage in, just moving ever so slightly forward to find some shots. Nice wall to deny, so there isn't the opportunity to pull them out, but with the reposition capability that Lifeweaver has, it can find an opportunity. Nice one-for-one trade. There's the second DPS down, though, for UCI, and this is where things get extremely challenging. You do still have the supports and Romani, but there's no real influx of damage that can start taking down St. Thomas, and they're just collapsing onto Romani, isolating him back. Beautiful assistance from the support line, though, with the Suzu and the Lifeweaver. They've been taken sky high, and they're just saluting the flag as they are close to it. And miraculously, you can see a decent amount of time actually cut off this clock, despite not being UCI favored.
Don't do it, Romani.
Oh, no.
Oh, wait, he got 4 of them. No way.
Oh, is he going to pull it off? He's getting the carnage on the front. Oh, my.
This is winnable. I think they can get back in time. I mean, they're still here. The Baptiste is dead. It's only Noctis here with the healing. Can they touch in time?
They dashed in.
The Blizzard.
Managing to give him assistance. There's enough healing that's coming up from the Kiriko into the back. They're going to be able to pull through this. Romani digs deep and pulls UCI from the grave and resurrects them with a new lease on life.
I'd be so tilted if I was University of St. Thomas there. I mean, this is like, how low is he when he eventually uses this? He's 38 health, 38 health, and he just wills his way to a 1v4. I mean, if Junker Queen wasn't a brand icon for Romani, it certainly is now. That was an absolutely absurd Junker Queen out there, because it was a fine line between carrying the fight and just inting the fight.
And now you can see that there is another attempt coming in from St. Thomas. They have the wall to divide again, but the reposition by Zerocious gives the overclock activation, but they're gone down again. Dan Twist takes them out. The Lifeweaver tree is active, attempting to fuel them with the healing. Dash slashing for days, gets a triple kill and denies entry from St. Thomas. The Blizzard is the only hope they have. They've managed to javelin him into the wall. They needed a few more seconds to take this, but Romani once again with the supports holds strong.
Fantastic pull from Mashiro, takes Romani out of that Blizzard, and University of St. Thomas used 3 very key ultimates in that fight and don't manage to make it happen. The silver lining for them is they have 96%, so if they win a fight super clean, they're just going to take that tick very easy. But Romani, look again with that Junker Queen Rampage. You're going to be looking at Abstract here to be able to block it potentially with that wall, but Romani will most likely be waiting for that cooldown to come through.
Look at how low Sunny is. There is the great pull. Terra Surge repositions once again. The Lifeweaver coming in clutch. Now, the last opportunity, 34 seconds. The Javelin giving distance on Romani, but the Rampage looming in the distance. Wants to hit the entire squad of St. Thomas and close this out now to put them onto a match point. The wall is down. They no longer have anything to block it. The Carnage up front, shutting down Abstract would be critical. They go more with a big lineup and able to get the Suzu out, though, from St. Thomas. Members only holds on to it. Trades continue to amass, but Abstract now giving another opportunity here for St. Thomas. The closer spawn is going to give them a chance to regroup into this, as you have the swap from Romani onto the Doomfist. Now, closing the gap, getting back into here. Overtime is active. Also seeing Dan Twist going to the Tracer to make sure that they have a numbers advantage into this. Romani needing to get pulled once again. Tree of Life is active, giving them another opportunity to heal through this damage. They've severed them with the wall, but they've broken it quickly. Zerocious is sticking close, and there's even the Blizzard to counteract as they press into the tree. It zones them away from it. There's no more healing available. They continue to clutch this out. Zerocious with the overclock, and the combination of Romani is causing so much disruption, as in this is a continuous, extensive overtime that still lights up in blue. UCI will not go down without a fight, and they will not give this up on Midtown.
That was stupid. That was one of the most absurd matches, rounds of Midtown I've ever seen. Like, it was just completely balls to the wall. Just, I have no words to describe what I've seen. Like, it was just, and analyzing that feels like it's not even worth it. Like, I don't know. It was just like, there were so many things that happened that I don't even know where I would start.
How do you think I feel?
How UC Irvine managed to hold that. It was just absurd.
Oh my. And see, okay, we talk a lot about, you know, going from like the victory that previously happened. You're on the win high. Right now, you see that emotion shift because UCI has absolutely turned this on its head and have come back from the actual brink, like has literally slapped away the coins from the boatman and said, I'm not going today, friend. I'm still staying here and I'm still breathing.
I mean, this was, like, it was just incredible. I think University of St. Thomas, though, did a fantastic thing towards, like, the back end of this fight where they switched members only onto the Kiriko, knowing that if there was going to be a Rampage, we can negate some of it, specifically with the Suzu, and they did exactly that, because if there's no Suzu in that last fight, where Romani hits the 5-man Rampage, the fight's over, but they're able to give themselves that extra lease on life. But it is very, very good that University of St. Thomas got this 96% because it is hard for UC Irvine to maneuver offensively into a composition like this, but they're doing the smart thing and bringing out the Bastion and the Sim to basically just say, we're going to try and maneuver around that, but a nice push from Sohn to start this off.
Yeah, the wall causing disruption to UCI as they attempt to go back into this. The Immortality Field's already out, so members only no longer has that to compete against this. It's been responded as well from St. Thomas. Beautiful Javelin. That's the first of many fights that they're going to need, but this is not done just yet. There is the separation from Romani up top, and now that Dash and the support line is starting to crumble, that's a nice initial 60-second hold.
Yeah, this was great play already from the Orisa, and I love that they're staggering out this Baptiste as well. Just take as much time as possible away from UC Irvine's chances to take this map, but really good presence of mind from Sohn to be able to push the members of UC Irvine away from that TP off the get so they couldn't just maneuver around the map like they wanted to. Really good presence of mind, and now University of St. Thomas can start to make this defense really work out for them. Sohn's going to be coming up towards a very key cooldown in that ultimate. Also, support ultimates are online, so they're looking pretty good.
Nice TP up top, takes the high ground. Jagged Blade goes wide, can't quite find the mark. As they're just gonna wait it out. They have...
You gotta wait for your cooldowns here.
Yeah, have to.
They're gonna be looking for Dash to potentially get a TP somewhere in the back line.
Oh, nice Javelin, gets them very low, but topped up. Patience is a virtue now for UCI as they take the TP into the corner. The wall is active. Ant Matrix as well gets a side angle, and members only is down. The sound barrier is the only lifeline that St. Thomas has, and unfortunately for UCI, it worked, and Dan Twist cleans up.
Yeah, this is why walking into this offense like this is very difficult with this composition, right? Because if you throw all of your buttons out, University of St. Thomas, just two of them, the sound barrier and that Ant Matrix just completely negates what UC Irvine was trying to do. And now if you're UC Irvine, you're walking in to that Terra Surge Bastion combo, you have nothing to deal with it. Mershiro has not been able to farm up towards the sound barrier in time, and here comes Dan Twist.
The setup, going for the ultimate. The pull isn't there. They go with it on its own. No pay dirt hit. Dan Twist goes for the blade. Again, comes out a miss. Unfortunately, cannot find the mark. Abstract with the Blizzard as well. There is a lot favoring. Nice pull into the Blizzard. They're going to synergize those two instead, locking down the supports. But Romani and Zerocious are still getting value. They've at least gotten two into this, and a counter ultimate comes through from Zerocious as well onto the Bastion. Is it going to be enough, though? The Orisa, with that just consistent fortification and ability to mitigate the damage, is allowing them to work their way through this, and with at least one support there and the mobility, they're holding on to it. But a Jagged Blade comes in from downtown, finally gives them a chance. 60 seconds to go now. UCI is turning this once again through the grit of things.
And I mean, will there be any recontest here? Noctis is on the Lucio still, could potentially find a way to proc this over time. Sohn is actually going over to the Hammond just to offer a way back in. Nice wall. Romani sectioned off, but Abstract gets obliterated.
Blown up now. It's with the Wrecking Ball up front. Romani is just gonna take them down one by one. This will be a UCI map victory in a fashion that I think has made everyone watching feel real good right now.
I mean, if you're University of St. Thomas, you're not feeling good. I don't think like this was
right.
This was hard to stomach. I think if you're them, you were so close to being able to take that tick, and just some incredibly clutch plays come out, and you aren't able to get that victory. And UCI though, full credit to them. When these fights get into like the doldrums, right? When they're nasty, when they're in the mud, they seem to thrive so incredibly well. And that, I mean, there has to be some sort of like aspect of communication here, because the way that they're keeping a lot of these key members alive, like Romani, they're playing so effectively around him. Zerocious and Dash are getting a lot of value on these flanks. Like, it's easy to say that this has just been like Romani Kingdom, right? Like this has just been Romani all the way, but there's been a lot of help with the rest of the team enabling Romani in such a way. And I love that there is kind of this team where it's like, yeah, we know who our best player is. We know that no one else is playing Junker Queen this way. Give him the ball. Like, you don't take the ball away from Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan. No. You give them the ball for that last shot, and that's exactly what UCI is doing right here to try and get into that top 8.
And then you got the Lifeweaver as the Rodman, just set, come back here. No, come back over here. You're not going to go any further
just
right
the best
now.
The best rebounder ever, Rodman's just right there like, hey, I got you, man. Don't worry about it.
Oh, goodness. Well, we've seen it now be a 2-0 score. We're going to head to a short break before getting into this third one to see if St. Thomas is able to shake these last couple of maps off. And we'll be seeing that on the other side of this break. Hi, we're back. You're probably still a little shaken from seeing something other than Sigma. No, you're not. You're excited that we're seeing something other than Sigma. We are seeing Junker Queen, and we now are going to go to our favorite Flashpoint map that personally I've really enjoyed. It's going to be Surasa.
It's the only one we've cast, so
I know, right? It has to be our favorite. That's it's ipso facto. That's basically just process of elimination. But the Junker Queen has been a thrill, and there's no way it's changing. Because it's almost like the gatekeeper right now. And like you mentioned, I'm talking a lot about the Junker Queen because it's super fun. It's very different. It's something that we're not typically seeing. But there are so many components to the Junker Queen that is really allowing it to be as functional as it is. Like, everybody really has to know that.
I think everyone has to, it's that they have to know that, and like, but like opting into kind of like being that player who's like, yeah, maybe I'm not going to carry. Maybe we can just like let Romani carry, and like winning is above all, right? Like, I think that's definitely kind of what I'm seeing from this team, where it's like, yeah, Romani is the focal point. We're going to get our shots because, you know, we had a lot of space from Romani, and we're going to use them effectively. But I think like Surasa, Dash, Xtor, and Mashiro have all been playing very well. It has been hindering a lot on, like, you know, Romani 38 health, 4-man, you know, 4-man, can't take that away from him, you know, 38 health, 4-man rampage into being able to hold that 96%. Like, that's just Romani being very good at this hero. But the way that they've been playing around this Junker Queen has been really spectacular. And you kind of talk about them being like this gatekeeper team, where it feels like that's what they've always had, this kind of idea where it's like, you know, you got to beat us to be like one of the best teams. And they always find that way, especially now that Romani's been on this roster, to be able to really, you know, be that gatekeeper team for these other teams that are trying to claw their way up into that top 8 side. And as we go to Surasa as our next one, I love this decision making from University of St. Thomas, because this is a map that we saw in our previous series where May gets a ton of value. May is very good against Junker Queen, so maybe that's something that they're thinking about, like, hey, this is where we can stop the bleeding, to be honest, because those last 2 maps, while they were like crazy and all over the place, it was UCI really having the upper end of a lot of those fights.
Yeah, if the supports are denied accessibility to Romani and are preventing from giving that extra necessary survival tactic, this can look very different. And the May wall and just those types of mechanical understandings, especially with what you touched on previous when we were on this map from the last series, there's a lot of those separated doorways. It's easy to completely shut them out, separate, divide, and Market, I would say, probably is the one that has the most expansive entranceway. Also, the way that the stairway and the channel kind of work through down below and up to that major platform. But it's going to be really interesting to see how St. Thomas reacts to this, and with their comp, we could definitely see something different than before.
Love this. Yeah, I would really love this if they would just go onto this Reinhardt composition and kind of just like use this Symmetra to not just fight enclosed areas with this team, right? If you're the Reinhardt composition, you could just TP onto UC Irvine, TP onto Zerosis, TP onto Dash, and just instantly kill them, right? You have so much front-loaded damage that there's not going to be enough healing with the Kiriko and a Lucio to be able to deal with that. So now it's about UC Irvine trying to play keep away as best they can, but that's just going to let University of St. Thomas get into this fight early and set up to be able to make it very difficult for UC Irvine to find a way in.
Dash taking the high ground for now, continuing to chip away at the health values of the back line. Dan Twist being the focal point for right now until they can enter in onto it. Romani still being hesitant before entry, constantly preventing. Oh no, the reposition of the blade! Yeah, he pulled him into it as he was charging, so it gets him pinned into the corner, but Romani still comes out on top despite the chaotic twist.
I mean, he pulled himself into a Reinhardt charge. I don't think I've ever seen that before, but UC Irvine, I think they played that so well, though. The second they saw this composition from University of St. Thomas, they all, like, split, kind of like V formation, and just all went to different areas, so University of St. Thomas has to be like, well, where do we TP onto? Because a lot of the heroes on UC Irvine have a lot of mobility. It would have to just be Romani, and then you're TPing on, and then you're letting Zerosis and Dash from flank angles poke into you. Same with Xtor, and you saw Abstract go down, and that's how the fight devolved.
Mighty Ducks in the flying V. For all those out there that know it, you know it. As you see this rotation now coming through from St. Thomas, looking for a flanking angle, but everyone has so much movement coming out from the Lucio that they're not. Yeah, there's no way. The chase though with the TP, able to find a chance to exploit them, but the Suzu gets them through it. They're holding on, and they get the turret set up, but they have to make an action fast as the Kitsune Rush comes in, an attempt to push them back. They're forcing them away, and they're sitting in the midst of this. They at least were able to get rid of one with the Fire Strike from Sunny up top onto Zashiro. But they're not out of this yet. They've kept it into the overtime. They're going to commit the Rampage into this. They clip it onto 2. The sound barrier is there. It's UCI with a sliver of health remaining, attempting to hold it, but they're just going to give it up for now and then go again.
Yeah, and this is what University of St. Thomas is going to have to continue to do if they want to have a chance at winning this map, right? Just make sure that when they're making these engagements, they're forcing out cooldowns from UC Irvine, right? Forcing out Lucio speed, forcing out Suzu, things like that, and those mobility cooldowns. If you can get to a position where UC Irvine have exhausted all of their mobility cooldowns, then you can just sit there with Bastion or with the Reinhardt and really get a lot of value in that regard. So I think University of St. Thomas now have the blueprint. It's just about executing it again into this fight.
And once again, this 3-2 position that they take so that there's value specifically with Zerocious having that ultimate available, the Dragon Blade as well. Romani is so low, they actually take him down before the barrier gets to them. But the Blade from Dash might be enough to turn this back and make them capitalize on the point. A third comes in onto members only. It's only Noctis now able to keep this team alive. Will they be able to have the presence of mind and the perseverance to work through this, swinging away onto Dash with a Fire Strike to guarantee that they have isolated the rest of UCI away, and that is Market going for St. Thomas.
Yeah, cooldown management from UCI, or from University of St. Thomas, really good there at the very end, just holding that immortality field specifically for that Blade, only using the wall, the photon barrier, just to try and take some time off the clock. Really well played from University of St. Thomas, who take a 1-0 lead to go into our next Flashpoint here. And UC Irvine don't really have a lot. I mean, it was a very expensive fight for them to win, and University of St. Thomas, this Shatter from Zone could get a ton of value.
Yeah, especially if they dive onto the back. They're going instantly on to Zerocious, keeping him up the stairway, booping him back, locking him away, and that's St. Thomas able to get 2, but Dash not going down without a fight themselves. They've managed to get 2. The Flashpoint is now open. They're still playing away from this position as Romani draws them back, keeps them away, and because the spawn is more favoring to UCI, they can get in with this with a quick reposition, especially since Zero has that mobility. The TP comes out now again to reposition, finding an off angle, and keeps them going, and even the artillery shells zones back UCI.
Yeah, I mean, no one's flipped yet as well, so now University of Thomas ain't back, but here comes a sound barrier against the Kitsune Rush.
Kitsune Rush giving them the extra necessary damage and ability rotation onto this to turn it back around. The Blade pulls out the Baptiste, but he's still alive for a brief moment until finally there is a pickup from Mashiro on the support. It switches to UCI, and they finally gain percentage.
A very bloody fight there, but finally it's UC Irvine who are able to take the win, and the University of St. Thomas are still just around here seeing if they can poke them down, but they need to figure out a way out of this area. Here comes the Rampage. It only hits 2.
Yep, Noctis low. Immortality field is active, so it's giving enough coverage, and with Noctis in the distance, they're able to recover.
Yeah, I think right there, Romani saw white, like kind of just saw red in his eyes there, and he was like, I can get this right here, but unfortunately, it was just too late for that TP, and now University of St. Thomas come back in. This Photon Barrier is going to do a lot in terms of just getting University of St. Thomas into this fight.
Active now, dividing that main platform. There are still 2 up top. Nice swift step to get themselves out, but Dash goes down, lands it onto the backside. Overclock now, ever present, looking for a decent pickup, but no one is being taken out of the fight. It falls to the wayside, and Dan Twist synergizes along with Noctis to shut down this Sojourn play that has been previously very viable for them. And even though it's 97%, it's still going to be a swap for St. Thomas.
Yeah, I mean, I think what University of St. Thomas has been doing so well is maneuvering with these May walls. I mean, Abstract is kind of playing a little bit like Backbone, where just these teleports are so good in terms of moving University of St. Thomas around that UC Irvine doesn't really have a particular area where they can all just focus down, and it's really hindering them being able to win these fights cleanly.
We'll see how UCI is going to maneuver into this. You can see once again they split themselves off. Dash in the outskirts. Romani getting pummeled for the moment. Nice TP, escapes the Blade. And there's nowhere for Dash to get a follow-up. Attempts to get the second slash, but the boop is there to get hit by the Rampage. Is members only going to go down? Finally, they've brought them to their knees despite the percentage game from St. Thomas. UCI able to take this and make it a 1-to-1 round.
Yeah, I mean, you could see really just how effective it is when you have those TPs, but unfortunately Noctis just wasn't able to follow up, and that's an insane rampage for Romani to attempt right there, but it ends up working out wonders for them, and UC Irvine now 1-1 tied up here. University of St. Thomas, not too many ultimates to talk about. They've got this Shatter, though. The Shatter could be extremely big in terms of figuring out what this fight's going to look like, because there's nothing to block it.
Well, and Gardens opened up, and that was right by where St. Thomas was for their spawn. So they can get to this position first, despite UCI managing to take that previous round. It took them much longer to get here. So now St. Thomas can really use that shield to mitigate the damage. The Shatter onto Romani in the Kitsune Rush, as there's also a sound barrier to help get them through it. Sunny, so low in the back, finally getting taken down by Mashiro, and it will be Mashiro with a two-piece and a melee on to boot, and they will clean up the Lucio play, wreaking havoc.
Gets a third though there as well, and I think that was great positioning by Mashiro throughout that fight, knowing that the Shatter was possible, so just getting away from it as much as they could, then throwing down that sound barrier to keep Romani alive through the damage as well, coming in from that Bastion artillery strike. That could have basically annihilated Romani if the sound barrier wasn't there in time, so the Lucio player for UC Irvine really stepping up in that last fight, but University of St. Thomas want to get back into this. With Ant Matrix plushed Bastion could do wonders for University of St. Thomas trying to win this fight.
TP now onto the point, Ant Matrix, but there's a flanking Sojourn in the back, had the rail shot, making it very challenging to feel comfortable when your backline is getting chipped away. With the nice photon barrier to divide, again, allows them a little bit more patience and coverage. The TP is back. They want to just isolate and separate Zerocious, who is all alone and away from the team with no ability to dash out. So now St. Thomas has the numbers advantage. The blade comes in, but instantly shut down by Sunny. The hammer of judgment comes through, and the rampage, unfortunately, is going to get well, I was going to say, I thought they might recover, but they're still 2 down. This is going to be really risky. 40% and climbing here for St. Thomas as the supports come in clutch to dominate the remainder of the fight.
The supports, but also Abstract there with the Symmetra, just having those turrets in perfect places to really ramp up his own damage, but make it so difficult for UC Irvine to win that. And University of St. Thomas now continue to hold here. If they win this next fight, they are going to be able to win this third point of Flashpoint. But look at on the flank, Zerocious, he's been scouted out. Are they going to commit TP to try and take him out of here?
Nice ricochet off the wall, getting some extra damage onto Zerocious, making them have to play super cautious and look for the health pack since they're so far away from the supports. There's the Lucio reposition, giving them the mobility. The overclock is active, 60 HP, and not getting topped up fast enough as they draw back. Kiriko waiting patiently, but Mashiro is down in the crossfire and attempting to move to give the assistance to Zerocious. So now, they've lost that mobility, it's all onto, oh no, the Kitsune Rush is active and you've lost the second support. It is crumbling for UCI, and St. Thomas will be able to get 1 round ahead and only need 1 more to keep this going.
Yeah, that Kitsune Rush is one that I definitely want to have back, especially because that fight, I mean, Romani's very good at Junker Queen, but I don't know if good enough to be able to do that and turn that one completely on its head. As University of St. Thomas only have to use the sound barrier, so now again, they're in a great position when it comes to this ultimate economy. You can see Zerocious, knowing that these flanks are not getting the value that they wanted beforehand, going over to this Bastion just to try and win that tank battle just a little bit easier for Romani. But look at University of St. Thomas, they get back onto this position first.
And Sunny, they're first on Temple. Once again taking and claiming this space. Amplification Matrix right on the fire strike, looking for a second as it just clips the upper end of the box. Doesn't gain any eliminations nor heavy chip damage, and UCI just waited out patiently.
But I mean, University of St. Thomas got the point now, so this is great for them. They only used the Ant Matrix, and now it's about going in.
Yep, there's the ice block already having to be used defensively. They blitz forward, absolutely overtaking the initial engagement, but then Sunny goes down, both tanks eliminated. It's only the DPS and supports that remain, with the photon barrier actually causing some disarray to how UCI want to enter onto this.
Romani will get back into this fight a little bit quicker though, but here comes the artillery barrage.
Landing into the back, another cryo freeze active, forcing those turrets to attack it first. 1-for-1 trade, Baps are down, no healing available, and you've got St. Thomas able to take the significant advantage in these long run fights with that Symmetra that we all know how it feels when that beam charges up. Sunny drawing back 30% to go, and this is the final moment for UCI.
Yeah, last fight, and I mean, what they really have here is going to be that rampage, and there's nothing really to deal with it on University of St. Thomas' side just yet. You're going to have the sound barrier from Noctis relatively soon. We'll have it before this fight ends up going, but then can you deal with the May Blizzard on the back end? Can you deal with the Ant Matrix as well?
Active down the center. It is all 5 players. Finds and threads the needle. Sunny is low. The immortality field. Noctis looking for the coverage. Romani gets 1. Dan Twist is down. Sunny also sent back to spawn, and they have managed to pull this out with another Romani rampage, but with this now team kill, they still have one more fight to go.
Yeah, they've got to play this perfectly, though, for the rest of this map. I mean, realistically, it will be difficult for University of St. Thomas to get into this fight without some key ultimates. They're going to have to wait for the Ant Matrix. That's going to be the biggest one. Throw that on with that Wheels mode. But once you get into the fight and into that enclosed area, there's going to be a May Blizzard right on top of that, and you don't have anything to deal with it now that the sound barrier's gone.
Nice reposition, taking the high ground, getting some intel. Immortality field has already been used, so they no longer have that. Big artillery shells on the high ground. The immortality field actually came up by members only, so they don't have that when they drop into this, as there's only 70 or 30% left to go. The amplification matrix, the blizzard, they've locked them down. St. Thomas is in the corner, a 1-for-1 trade. Bastions are down, but the support has been eliminated. They no longer have that mobility for the Reinhardt to re-enter onto this as swiftly as they would like. But the photon barrier divides and conquers, blocks the portion of it so they can come in to recontest, approaching that climactic 99 into the overtime with Mashiro having that sound barrier active. Romani is down, the stun lands. Abstract is still alive, but unfortunately capitalized on with Mashiro again coming up big with the final blows necessary in the overtime to bring it to another round.
Oh, that was so close. I mean, the way that Abstract was dancing around that shield, so supercharged. I thought there was potential for them to be able to just completely wipe the entirety of UC Irvine away, but UC Irvine stayed cool, calm, and collected. And now, as we go to our last point here, look at how much of an advantage UC Irvine has in terms of that positioning. This is fantastic for them. Ant Matrix available too, comboed along with that Baptiste, or with the Wheels mode of the Bastion, is going to be so hard for University of St. Thomas to enter into this one, and that's going to most likely be UC Irvine taking this point first and starting to accrue that percentage.
It's all on this point of runes. The TP is active, the wall in the back is there. Artillery shells to lead into this. Nice evasion coming out from X-Store. Oh my goodness, they find a grenade that ricochets off the floor and hits them. The Baptiste is down, and this is an opportunity now for St. Thomas to take the advantage, despite the positional advantage that UCI had. Rampage comes in though, gets a second onto Sunny, and now the dominoes start to fall where UCI is able to claim it despite losing their support.
I mean, so close, but on a knife's edge there. Romani again with another fantastic rampage, and you can see University of St. Thomas now opting to go in for a May themselves. They know they want to have that ability to use that wall, but going over to the Orisa, I mean, they think that the Reinhardt is just not really getting as much value as it was previously, and on this point, you need a little bit more of that poke on entry.
And we'll see if they're able to get this back and hold on to one of these support ultimates. That would be key if they don't have to expend them, so they can carry it into a final fight. Members only now with the amplification matrix, and they swap it over. That is a massive win for them right now. The Orisa up front, sticking close. Already having to use the Fortify, so it's no longer available. Spear Spin as well, so they have to play super defensive around this inner wall and rely solely onto the supports. Noctis now with the sound barrier. There's no healing. Sunny is alone and left to fend for themselves as everyone from UCI once again lights it up and switches it back. A team kill and now surpassing 50%.
Fantastic pull of the trigger as well from UC Irvine. They let them take a little bit of this point, or a little bit of this percentage, 35%, but they know that they have this May Blizzard available to them way ahead of what University of St. Thomas is going to have. And now with 70% ticking upwards, Rich, this is last fight territory, and UC Irvine have so many key ultimates to work with in this fight. The biggest one gonna be where we're gonna see Romani with this rampage.
Noctis with the sound barrier.
Disaster.
Oh no, you see the instant pickup. The sound barrier comes out too late. There is no way it is going to be an even 5-for-5. Members only drawn in the back, unable to do anything as there is an attempt with a Terror Surge to come back into this, but the rampage to seal the envelope and ship it out as UCI manages to take this 3-0, and all of those in chat saying we saw something other than Sigma, and the Junker Queen is what we love.
An absolutely bloodbath of a series, but it's UCI taking a 3-0, another play of the game for Romani, and this composition, I mean, in the clutch feels like this UCI team It's so hard when it gets to these muddy fights, dragging them down to their level. It's very difficult to maneuver, and well played to University of St. Thomas. I mean, I thought the symmetric composition was really good when they were using it effectively, but eventually UC Irvine kind of got the blueprint on how to beat it, and from there it was very, very close. UC Irvine taking that 3-0 and will be taking a spot in that top 8. Unfortunately, University of St. Thomas, they will be bowing out of the tournament, but not before a great result against Fisher Chips earlier. Just couldn't pull it out against this UC Irvine team.
I mean, and it just ties back to the gatekeeper conversation. UCI has always been, and I feel will forever be, a team that really pushes you to the limit and tests your will. So to be able to play as formidably and make those adjustments that's necessary from St. Thomas to compete against it, hats off to them. But we'll see UCI moving on and bringing more hell to those with this Junker Queen.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder how, like, what are the legs on this composition, right? Like, how far can a composition like this go when we get to, like, you know, those Maryvilles, those Northwoods, Rutgers, and like the top end of the bracket, Fisher College, their main team, I'll say. How is this going to be able to match up against that? And are there going to be some people now seeing that UC? I mean, you could probably guess if it's UC Irvine that Romani's going to be playing Junker Queen, but now you have some footage on it. You know that it's something that you can probably figure out a game plan for. Unfortunately, University of St. Thomas didn't have that luxury, and they're going to be down.
I mean, the biggest thing is don't think that 38% is low enough health. You need it to be zero. You need it to be zero.
Romani needs to be dead if the fight is going to be over.
Like, not approaching dead, but like dead. It's like those things when I'm in comp and I'm just like, oh, they're one, and they're really not one. And it's just...
Romani's one is when he has 0 health. That's when Romani is one. That's when you can take a deep breath. But UC Irvine, again, making their way into the top 8 like we've seen them before. This team always finds a way to get there, and I'm shocked to see who we're going to be interviewing here. I don't know if there's anyone else I'd rather talk to. Looks like it's going to be Romani, Rich.
Yeah, okay. Now, see, this is just going to be fun. This is like kind of like a fan moment. Like, everyone in the chat was super excited to see Junker Queen. All of us seeing something different. Romani's just going to take the stage and be like, that's me, friends. I'm looking forward to it. So we do have that confirmation. We're going to be heading to a short break to get them in here. So don't go anywhere, friends, because I'm so excited to see what Romani's going to say.
Ready or not, here I come.
Oh yes we can. Oh yes we can. Oh yes we can. Oh yes we can.
Ready or not, here I come.
Oh yes we can. Oh yes we can. Oh yes we can. Oh yes we can.
Welcome back, everybody. You know, there are interviews that I always look forward to. It's exciting to be able to talk to the players, but right now, I think this is probably like the most excited I've been in a really long time. Romani, how are you doing, my friend? We got to see a master class of Junker Queen that I know everyone in the chat watching. There's probably clips that are going to be filtering around of you doing this. How you feeling after that one, my friend?
You know, I'm feeling wonderful. That was a very high energy and amazing match to play, and I always love putting on a show for the viewers.
Surgical, some could say.
I mean, hey, it did feel a little bit like Romani Canyon, just a tad bit on that Midtown. But I mean, let's not beat around the bush anymore. What's with the Junker Queen? I mean, obviously it's you. Like, you are synonymous, I think, at this point with Junker Queen as like a brand. But like, how have you gotten so good at this hero that you've like convinced 4 other players just be like, yeah, we're giving you like every resource to carry? Like how has that kind of formulated for your team?
Well, first of all, I'd like to mention that our playstyle and our motto with the team is Enable Romani. That is
okay.
our playstyle. Now, I don't want to detract from my teammates. They're all wonderful. I wouldn't be able to do this without them. But as for JQ, I've always said this to a lot of fans who ask and a lot of people I've talked to, but JQ is kind of what Hog needed to be in Overwatch 2. And I felt very natural making the switch over from Hog to JQ because I used to be a Hog player. Yeah. And after hours and hours of practice and scrims, I was able to hone in my skills and abilities and just pop off.
You've been able to be forged in the fire and the flames that is Junker Queen down under.
That is correct. A wonderful way to put it.
Yeah, so now the question is, I mean, we've definitely been seeing the Junker Queen. Is this something where, as you continue to go against opponents that, you know, elevate in competition and, you know, start to gain resistance against you, is it that you're willing to make the change, or is it that you're focused more so on adapting the composition to counteract whatever the opponent presents? I'm curious of your methodology behind that and your thought.
Well, I think you made up a really good point in the second part of your question. We generally like to stick to Junker Queen, but adapt our composition. Not change the core of the composition, but change around some tweaks to the supports or DPS to make it work against different compositions.
So like the May Bastion that you did just like right there at the end of like, that was like a mid-set adaptation.
The quick swap,
yeah,
yes.
The quick swap. So I want to know what the comm structure is a little bit like, because it feels like, based on just like an outside view, it would basically be you kind of just saying like, hey, I need these specific cooldowns. And to the credit, I think, very much of Xtor and Mashiro, they did fantastic at like peeling for you. Like I'm specifically thinking about the pulls from like Mashiro. We're seeing replays now back on Midtown. Is that you kind of calming for that, or do you just have like infinite trust in them to be able to give you that specific cooldown that you need at that time?
You know, I think the comp structure and the play style with the supports is a little bit of a pathway. I would like to say that at first I was able to just go in and trust my teammates, but you know how it works with new players, new teammates. You kind of have to build that trust. So over time, over scrims, I built that trust with my supports, and I finally gotten to the point where I can really fully trust them with, let's say, the pull, the Suzu, the timing and those things. And for the second part, with the overall comp structure, it is not just mainly me, but, you know, Zerosh making those adaptations to the fight plans that we're making, Dash even making those quick announcements, Mashiro ult tracking and ult planning. There's so many different things that go into it. It's not just Romani season for the comm structure.
Gotcha. So we want to recognize, and we can't ever go without doing that, but 38 HP and a dream on Midtown.
Did you think you were going to live through that one?
Talk me through
that. Well, that is a kind of ult that I like to brand as a Romani ult. You know, sometimes I will just die while casting it, and other times you'll see me pop off like I did in that clip. So I was invested in that ult. I had a vision, especially because of Junker Queen's the HP that you get from the bleed damage. I was very invested, and I definitely thought I could pull it off. I always do when I go for those Romani ults.
Right.
So let's make a structure. Let's make a structure. So for all those, you've pulled a Romani when you've made a rampage turn to fight under 50 HP. There it is, right there. That's the guiding line.
or
I died while casting it. That's the other side of the coin. You know?
Okay.
Yeah, there's two sides to every coin, but
of course.
Kind of now going forward into the top 8, where it feels like UCI and like the program is very familiar with. What are your expectations going into there? Because it feels like this Junker Queen, it's here to stay. Like, it's not really going anywhere, and it feels like we've seen a lot more of the Sigma meta being really, really prevalent in a lot of these other classes. What do you think your chances are in, like, toppling over a Sigma meta?
Well, run Sigma, I wish you luck, enemy team. But what I have to say is twofold. First of all, I would like to mention, it's a little bit off topic, but this team, my team UCI, is actually not a part of the program. We're a separate club team. We aren't part of the history. A few of us has played for the team in the past, but we are a separate entity and a separate team that has made its playoffs. And then also, Junker Queen Gaming. So your second answer.
I think we can work with that. I think we can work with it tomorrow.
I'm good with
Sunday.
that. I mean, for you to say that, you know, as a separate entity, to be able to pull this together and to perform at the level that you are with the individuals that you have on your team, it has been an absolute thrill to be able to watch this one, and I can't wait to see how it continues on. And it has been a pleasure not only just talking with you, but just the way at which that you've conducted yourself through the interview, and really, really appreciate you, my friend.
I appreciate you guys as well. It's always fun doing these interviews. I always love just putting a voice to the face for my playstyle, my player, my character. No, I love doing these interviews, and it's awesome being here.
Well, thank you so much, my friend.
Thanks,
and
Romani.
for all those that want to watch more JQ, definitely go watch this player. You got to make sure that Romani gets that support. On their own
Go
channel.
follow their Twitch. Go follow their Twitch. Yeah, Twitch Prime subs. Yeah.
Need
Get in there.
that ramen money.
Yeah, please, my daily source of ramen. Oh my god.
Well, thank you so much, Romani. Have a good rest of your night, my friend.
Thank you guys. Have a good night.
Thanks, Romani.
Like I said, I had a feeling going into this one that we were gonna have one heck of an interview, and it did.
I love interviewing
Romani.
Romani. Interviewing Romani is so good. I think we interviewed him back when like the hog was really starting to pop off, and like we had like a very similar interview where it was like Roadhog Gaming. So I'm glad that Romani has found a home on a different hero that kind of gives that same vibe as that Roadhog player that we knew from the past. But you can take a look at the schedule that we've had earlier today. Ball State University versus Grandview University. Ball State University winning that one, and then a 3-0 for UCI here against University of St. Thomas, getting them into that top 8. You can look at the schedule for tomorrow. That match was really quick, guys. So we don't necessarily have a full idea of what the bracket is going to be looking like.
You should get your predictions in. You should get your predictions in right now.
Start the bracketology right now, but no matter what we see tomorrow, I mean, we know that UCI is going to be there, so that's definitely exciting for me. More Junker Queen? Yes, please. I would definitely love to be seeing more of that. And tomorrow we have 3 matches as well, so that's going to be something interesting. Also starting a little bit earlier than it was today, so definitely make sure to keep that in mind, and also follow on the socials at OW Path to Pro. I think I got that right. Yeah, they. Okay.
Yeah, you got that right. You're doing good. You're doing good. It's okay. You can take
usually
little promos every now and again.
Rich, the salesman, and the play-by-play do all the shouts instead of me. But sometimes I got it in my back.
You got to dabble every now and again. Like when I try and do math, it works. That one worked out real well. So we'll each kind of hand off each other's necessary components. But with that being said, we have reached the end of the broadcast. This is the second match that we have come to a conclusion with. We are so excited to see you tomorrow again, 11 a.m. PDT, for us to get things underway with 3 glorious matches. It has been a pleasure to be here with all of you once again for this amazing collegiate weekend. So we hope you have a wonderful rest of your night. Take care, happy gaming, and we'll see you tomorrow.